I'd like to add that we're going to take a vote on the Maxwell Trust piece that's going to be for CPC. Pat, do you have for enforcements Old Oaken Bucket and Curtis and Stockbridge? Part of the discussion?
Not as formal, but we could add them for a quick discussion. Old Oaken Bucket, Curtis.
And Stockbridge Road.
Okay.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda with the add-ons.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'm assuming that a lot of people are here for Country Way, and that opens at 6:30? So before that,
The historic.
so the Historical Society is looking for a continuance. We still need to open that. On December 16th.
No, this is continued.
It's already continued.
Okay.
Well, how far out do they want to go, Carol?
He didn't say.
So we'll go to the next meeting, the 13th?
Pat, you know what I forgot to ask? I was going to speak to Jim DeBarros. I know, there's one more piece I wanted to add. Is a little bit of discussion about the water resources.
Vegetation removal.
Well, no, but first the water resources request for our support of their letter. So I want to discuss that tonight as well. Okay?
Do we have to revote the agenda?
If you want to...
I make a motion that we add on a discussion of the water resource to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On this steps for the grist mill, I meant to try to catch up with Jim DeBarros, and I will, because they had to, I recall they filed something to clear brush and remove things around the dams. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to consider the other side of that with some minor activity.
Continuation of their work on the other side of the street.
Yeah, if they were willing to consider that. We're talking about only a few steps, but maybe that's a way to do that without the Historic Society having a file.
And that'd be separate from taking care of the Phragmites down at the park then.
Yeah, although what they actually were doing was cutting Phragmites and other invasives along the edge of the pond, right along Country Way, between the edge of the pond and Country Way. They had a machine with a big arm cutting that brush. And I know that they did file something with us to do that and the dam up at on 3A. That came in sometime over the summer.
Okay,
So we have some sort of, either it was an RDA or an NOI, I don't remember.
I can check.
If we can, between us, think
It
we'll
was
figure
a
that
year
out.
ago, I think,
Okay.
that they were.
But I think it's like an ongoing maintenance.
Exactly. But we'll still continue this.
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion, we continue the Historic Society, 16 Country Way, it's an RDA, to January 13th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With a few minutes before we can open Country Way, is there anything in particular you want to discuss?
The Devotion property up in Clap Road, I talked to the town administrator, and she thinks that it would be a good idea to have that meeting in January, so that we would advertise it and let abutters know, and then have a full discussion about the possible trade of part of the Damon property for that property.
Okay.
That would fit in with what they would have to do with the town meeting and the legislature.
So we want to have a public
Hearing that I guess we would advertise and notify abutters. And then allow the property owner to do a presentation, and then abutters could give their sides of the issues.
Okay.
Would this be a regular meeting or a separate meeting?
This could be at our regular hearing. Probably the 13th would be...
The 13th?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good time to do it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take too
No,
long.
I think
In the
it should
meantime,
be.
though, if anybody wants to go out and see that, I was talking with Maura Curran about it last night, so I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
So you're thinking the 13th?
Yeah, that'd probably be the best. That gives us a month to get it advertised.
Okay. Do you mind if we, folks from Maxwell here for the piece, that they can do that, and then they don't have to stay
Sure.
through some of the other ones? So why don't you step up? This is, the Maxwell Trust has put an article to the Community Preservation Committee to purchase additional land that they own off of Bates Lane and also Cowan's Cove. So maybe just let them give us a quick meeting.
Thank you, Frank. Peter Kelly Detweiler and Cindy Robbins from the Maxwell Conservation Trust. So what's the best way for us to proceed with the handout?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
This may be a heartbreaker, but I don't think too many of the folks that are here is for you guys.
You know, that happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No. Thank you, though, Peter.
Do you want to put that map up on the the easel?
Yeah. Sorry, you can't
Oh,
see that.
that's fine.
So that's this one?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you want to explain, I heard it Monday night at CCC.
Sure.
but-
Well, tell me if we do a better job tonight. Get a chance to practice.
Yeah.
Thank you for hearing us. So essentially, I'll try and keep this really brief. So the trust has been around since 1998. You know, back when the CPA was started, we got involved trying to protect land at that point in time, looking at various resources, including the mitigation for the train and so on. And the CPC came along at that particular point in time. So our goal, as we saw it, was to facilitate transfer of land from landowners in Scituate. A lot of people who are getting on in age were looking at selling land, working with their children to try and see what they could get into conservation, and at that time also Toll Brothers and others were working to develop parcels in town. So Cindy and Wayne knew a lot of people, and a lot of the land that was open space was in the West End, so that's where we focused our efforts. And they essentially started to get particular families involved in thinking about selling land to the town of Scituate. And our job was to help effectuate those transfers. In the early days, though, there wasn't enough money in CPC. So when we were talking with the CPC in the early days, Sue Phippen was on the board then, and Josh, what's Josh's last name? Sorry. McCain and others. And at that particular time, the Muncie parcel, which was one of the parcels up for sale in that time, the town was able to afford part of it, and they asked the Maxwell Trust if we would purchase a piece of that as well. So if we look at this on the map here, we're talking about these particular pieces right here. This now is all green space and protected. There was town land already owned over here in the early days, and then a lot of this has been transferred to Maxwell Conservation Trust. Total, and there's trails on all this now. You can see on the slide with the Recreation Bates Lane trail map, just how many trails there are in that particular area. One right across this whole area here. During that whole period of time, and up until now, we've essentially, the Maxwell Trust has completed 9 projects totaling about 335 acres. All of those 9 projects went to town meeting, and each one of them was unanimously approved. That started, the first one was the Muncie parcel that the town bought in 2003. The last of those was the Damon property last year, which was 37 acres. So again, over that period of time since 1998, and then starting with the first one coming to the town in 2003, a total of 334.7 acres. At the same time, there's another property, which we talked about down here, called Cowan's Cove, and it's just over 11 acres. This is a parcel that, again, because Maxwell was in the process of trying to protect open space, we had a developer, Eugene Maddy, come to us and say, I'd like to develop a parcel of land, but I recognize there's fragile land along the South Swamp, which is where our watershed starts for our drinking water. I said, what if I work with you all at Maxwell Trust, and I'll develop the acres up front near the road, and deed to you 11 acres in the back. So we said, okay, that works for us. And we spent some money for lawyers to help make that happen. So what we're looking at right now and proposing to the town is to essentially sell 3 parcels to the town under the single proposal. 2 Muncie parcels, which we bought back in the early days, because the town didn't have the money at that point in time, and said, if you can take this now, or Sue Fippen had said to us, if you can take this now, we'll buy it from you later on. So we're talking about those 2 acres for 26.8 acres, those 2 parcels, and then Cowings Cove for 11 acres.
Do you have those highlighted? Those?
Yeah, so these 2 are right here.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay, thanks.
So back then, the town bought 44 acres for $17,000, $247 an acre. We bought, at the Maxwell Land Trust, 26.8 acres for $389,415, so $14,500 and change per acre. At that time, we didn't have money because, we're a small land trust. We've got maybe 100 members, a dozen people on the board, and, you can only have so many car washes and bake sales to,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You paid $14,500 per acre, and
Yes.
the town paid what?
Town paid $17,247.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we essentially took out a loan, Maxwell Land Trust did, and bought the land. It's not something we wanted to do, because we didn't feel we were in the business of owning land, but it was one of these things where the Muncie parcel was a challenge. It was a difficult property to deal with and negotiate, and we felt like if we didn't do it at that particular point in time, the opportunity was fleeting. And the long-term goal was, and particularly Cindy and Wayne, but all of us saw that this entire space had the possibility of being protected, and some of it potentially developed by developers with houses and tract housing, that sort of thing. So we thought, all right, let's get a little bit over the tips of our skis here, take the risk and make this happen. So people ask, well, okay, that happened, so many years ago, over a decade ago. Why now? Well, the main answer is, if you look back at the slide before with the project list, essentially, we were pretty tied up with Muncie, Litchfield, Hennessy, Wheelwright, Crosby, Hubble, Higgins, McAllister, and Damon. Every couple of years or year, we would bring another piece of property through this process to the CPC, to REC, to Conservation, and so on, negotiating with all the people, working the pieces together, and then helping to sponsor that at town meeting. So now we're at the point where there's no more large parcels in that part of town. There aren't many huge parcels in the rest of town, if any. And at the same time, we've got a trust that's, quite frankly, we're smaller now in numbers. There's not the urgency anymore because the land is protected. And so we're looking to tie up some of our affairs, if you will, and finish and complete this open space piece. So what we're looking for now is the opportunity to transfer those 2 pieces there and the Cowings Cove to the town and offer those up for sale. So essentially, what we're offering is, for the town, 28.6 acres of the Muncie parcels and 11 acres of Cowings Cove in exchange for a total of $394,767.84, which represents reimbursement of the original Muncie price of $389,415. No interest on that, same price we paid for it back then, and then attorney fees for Cowings Cove in order to effectuate the transfer of that land to the trust some years ago. So that's the proposal that's in front of you all this evening for discussion. Thank you.
This isn't a hearing. What they're requesting is that the commission endorse this and send a letter to CPC. So we just want to go through this and see what our members think.
Can I clarify that endorsement? Are we talking about the price or value of it, or just the idea that we support the idea of getting this into our care?
I believe it would be to get this into our care.
So that the pricing piece is not in our purview.
When it comes to the money, the CPC, community preservation can't pay more than
Market price.
the appraised value. And then there's also the issue of, we've sort of set a cap on what we would pay per acre.
Okay.
When we bought the Damon piece, I think we brought that up to $20,000, but this is less than that.
Okay.
So,
Basically, it's
It's
to get it on the
37.
town meeting floor.
Yeah.
Okay, if we send CPC a letter supporting it,
Yep.
and the members of CPC, the 9 members there, vote to take it forward, that's kind of, we're endorsing with this letter that Conservation thinks it would be a good idea to purchase the property.
Would conservation be the caretakers or
Yes.
trust?
So
Or aren't we looking for more people to become trustees?
No,
or-
that's the CRs, that's another whole
so
issue.
when we acquire the property, most of this open space winds up in care and custody of the commission, this commission. Then, when it's purchased with community preservation funds, the state requires, because there's matching funds from the state, that a conservation restriction be placed on the property. Some of the properties have them, some of them are yet to be done. That's something that Penny's been willing to take on and get that sorted out. Maxwell Trust has been the conservation restriction holder in some of the properties. One of the pieces that we acquired, we did with the Cohasset Water Department, and they're a holder in the CR. We're also looking into the possibility of having a larger organization that's familiar with this be a future CR holder to all these. There's several entities out there. Penny's working with one right now, which we'll be talking about as we move forward. But that's a piece. What you don't want is to have the town being the one that's totally responsible. This land is purchased for open space with different types of recreation.
Yes.
And you want to be sure that that's not abused, that someone
Yep.
down the road doesn't say, geez, that'd be a great place for, a landfill.
Yeah, so it's checks and balances for the town, even though they own it, there's some...
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
So,
Great, thank you.
so those are a couple of different pieces. So now it's to take a piece, to wrap up a couple of pieces.
Yeah, and make that whole.
When
Yep.
we, about maybe 3 years ago now, we commissioned the Conway School to do a study for us on our
Beautiful
open
piece,
space.
yeah.
One of the pieces that they felt was hugely important is that the larger a tract of land is, the more beneficial it is for habitat. So you can have an acre here, an acre there, 5 acres somewhere, and not to say that it's not important, but when you can put a larger piece together, it's better habitat all the way around.
And it'd be more attractive to builders if it's a larger piece, they'd be more likely to try to, yeah,
Well,
okay.
this piece of property was in the sites of Toll Brothers. This was
Yeah.
going to be a Toll
Years
Brothers development 15 years ago. When the economy sagged, they left, which was, and luckily there was a perfect storm of Maxwell, CPC, and people willing and wanting to sell their property. And so that's why we were, and there was also open space up there that was owned by the town.
Gotcha.
So we were able to acquire a big chunk of that, and then other people have come in. The other piece you can't really see on here is the Hummel piece off of Indian Trail, which joins a piece of open space the town already
We
had.
already own it.
So it's been huge, and that's another piece that Maxwell did for the town.
Great explanations, thank you very much.
So the Community Preservation Committee will be making decisions on this, and we're looking to give them...
show our
support as well.
Yep, okay, good.
So if anybody wants to entertain a motion,
He's going to tell them to be quiet. I make a motion that, yes,
Just ask a question. What would be the deadline that CPC or Board of Selectmen or somebody would need to have the endorsement by Conservation on this? What's the time? Is it,
CPC is voting this, Pat.
February the 1st,
8th.
yeah, the 8th. Our first meeting, we're going to
so it'll be
vote.
February?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think my recommendation would be, we've got it on the agenda for a discussion tonight, but it wasn't posted 48 hours for a vote.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'd be a little nervous about going ahead with a public vote, because people who may have dissenting views on this wouldn't have been notified, and they wouldn't have been able to be part of the discussion.
They could, I mean, essentially that discussion is at CPC, they're the ones that do it. They got a letter, there's different town entities that have weighed in on whether this is valuable or not.
Right.
So certainly we could vote it at another meeting.
Yeah, I think I would
I don't think you folks
recommend...
need to come back.
No,
Right.
yeah, I mean, they wanted to make their
Yeah,
presentation.
because, I think if people looked at our website and saw, didn't see this on the agenda, and they may have very different feelings about this parcel, they would have a right to say they weren't heard, so.
It's not a hearing, though.
Yeah, and,
Right, it's just about an endorsement.
yeah, and we're not closing any hearings. It's not like, yeah, but,
It's a vote about a purchase that the town would be making, would be endorsing something, so
Okay.
I'm not sure, I mean...
as long as we get it done before the
Right, that's
CPC
what I'm
meeting, then
asking.
you guys are all right
If
with
there
that,
is
right?
Well,
He
we'll
obviously wants to cover some bases, so.
have it done before their next meeting period.
Okay.
So we got
You
two
know?
shots.
Sorry
We
about
actually
that.
have two shots.
But I
Before we
think there's no
understand.
need, I think you've explained it to the commission, and certainly we can put our piece up. We have a map if someone has any questions. The other piece, though, that just you didn't really light on much was the Cowan's Cove
Yeah.
piece. And just, a lot of that land is in Norwell, but the water that's in that land flows into Scituate. Anything that lands in the water in that parcel off of Cowan's Cove winds up in the Greenwich Pond.
This is the South Swamp,
Yeah.
okay? Here's the Cowan piece.
Oh, yeah.
This is our water supply.
Okay.
That's where everything starts for us.
So that would be part of protecting it.
It would be,
Yeah.
protecting us.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we actually mapped all that with GPSs about 15 years ago in all the tribs on some really rainy days in the spring, just to see where the water flowed. And it's pretty clear where it comes from. Cowan's Cove goes straight down through here, and then at Damon Galen Pond, and then at the first herring pond.
Cool.
But I think if you've seen anything in the paper, one of the discussions, whether it ever comes to fruition, was another reservoir would be Damon, is that how it is?
Damon Galen.
With a coal.
Yeah.
That would be another possibility for a water resource for our town. So it's under $6,000 for 11 acres to protect that. And it directly affects town Scituate water supply.
One last thing, people had asked, well, okay, so that's with the land is right now. What's the worst case that could happen? And so we should just note, there is no conservation on that restriction. There's no conservation restriction on that land right now. And while it's not likely that it would be buildable, it's
We're
certainly...
talking about the 37,
The Muncie
38
parcels,
acres,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
It's certainly possible, for example, that, someone could own it and clear cut it or turn it into agricultural land with pesticides or whatever. It potentially could certainly disrupt the trail system that runs across that right now. So there's some recreational reasons that make abundant sense.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great holidays.
You want to jump into Country Way where
Oh, he's against that.
the reps for, is Wesley Witten? Yep. So on December 16th, 2015, at 6:30 PM in Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Town of Scituate DPW to construct a multi-use trail along the eastern side of Country Way extending from Old Country Way north to the intersection of First Parish Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. A couple of things we should lay out. I got a notice.
When was the meeting that you were just talking about, that parties can attend?
Pardon me?
The CPC meeting you were talking about for the last one?
Okay, so you're talking about...
We just opened a hearing for the Country Way
Understood.
path.
Understood.
Yep. And what we do is, a few things. This is a wetlands hearing for this project. Then the folks that are presenting the project will give us their information. The members will question that, the agent will question it, and then we'll open it up to the audience and ask that one person speak at a time. So that's basically the rules of this. I got a butter notification. I don't know whether you sent them out all over. I'm not in a butter to this project, so I just want to, I don't know if there's anybody else here,
I think you may be in a butter because of your Ford Place property.
but I don't own that anymore.
okay.
So maybe it was an old butters list or something.
Very- I think about 1,000
You
people
know,
were
the guys in
noticed.
Hummerock don't.
No, we don't get it.
I didn't get one. And I live this side.
By definition, and since it's not a point project, everybody along Countryway from First Parish Road through to Greenbush for about, how many feet?
1,000.
1,000 feet on either side got a notice, which resulted in a notice list of about 800 people.
Sure. I just want to be sure, I mean, if I were in a butter, I would either have to ask that I not be recused or step aside,
Oh, I see. Oh, I understand.
but I'm not. So, why don't you go forward, Al, with
Thank you. Okay, my name is Al Bangert. I was the Director of Public Works for a number of years, retired from that, and continue to work with the town one day a week on special projects. This is a project that was taken by the town before the Community Preservation Committee 3 years ago. I was vetted by the Community CPC group. They approved the project, took it through the various steps to town meeting, and it was voted by a town meeting as a project to build a walking multi-use trail along Country Way from First Parish Road through to Greenbush. The CPC and then town meeting approved funds for construction of one half of the project, and the Department of Public Works provided funding to do the engineering for the entire project so that we wouldn't end up building half of a sidewalk or half of a trail, only to find out that it was infeasible on the second half. So what you're going to see today is the engineering study done for the entire path, which will then enable us to, in January, providing we get the proper order, provided we get an order of conditions and meet with the planning board and complete the scenic road hearing with them, then we will go out for funding, we'll go out for bid in January and then hope to begin construction in April or May. It looks like construction duration will be about 6 months, so that we would like to be open around the time school opens in the fall.
Al, could I just ask one quick question? So I understand this is for the whole thing, but the first phase will go from First Parish to
Huey.
Ewing, up the hill. Okay, thank you
Do we
very much.
want to turn this a little bit? Is there folks in the audience that, we also have a map out in the hallway, that's not going to help you right now.
Do you want me to give a brief?
Yep. So I'll turn it over to someone you're familiar with.
Justin Lamoureux, Horsley Witten Group. So the project is approximately 1.5 miles, starting at First Parish right down the road here. It's completely on the northeast side of Country Way. As Al mentioned, we end down by the MBTA station at Union and Old Country. Sidewalk will be 6 feet in width. We'll have vertical granite curb,
Oh, it's not a sidewalk.
and it will have connectors to, the reason it is on the northeast side of the street is for connectors to all the side streets that are along the way. For wetlands, all the wetlands for the most part are on the southwest side. So environmental is a big part of how we cited the path. It was a consideration in citing the path. Drainage improvements, we are doing drainage improvements as part of the project. All the catch basins, Countryway has a drainage system for the entire length. We'll be adding to that drainage system as part of our project. We'll be adding catch basins and the new gutter lines, converting the existing catch basins to manholes, so in all those locations, we're doubling the sediment and debris storage. In terms of erosion control, we're looking at silt sock along all the wetlands and silt traps, silt sacks in all the existing catch basins.
Could you point out where the wetlands are?
Exactly what
I was
my
gonna
question,
say.
all three of us.
Maybe you could spin that
Yeah.
back for a minute.
Yep, and they're highlighted here.
Just so we know, because
Yep.
that's
Well,
what
so
our
everybody
concern
knows.
really is.
The path is completely,
Try to move it back just a little bit if you can.
the path is proposed in buffers. We're not in the wetland in any location,
Okay.
and we're completely within the town's right of way for the entire project. But wetlands are shown in blue, 50-foot green, 100-foot yellow.
What's your orient on where those are?
Justin, you don't have this in a larger one, do you?
No.
Well,
I
okay.
don't.
All right, Frank, this,
We're here.
for the commission members, it's in
yeah,
the
we're looking at
packet, and that
Yeah.
shows the whole area.
Yeah.
Wow, this is
So there's
Nice
really
looking
only,
piece.
if I'm correct, there's only one section that is in the 50-foot buffer? Or is it between, what I'm looking at
Yep.
is this here. So this is,
Project goes on.
Yep, down by the pump station, the sewer pump station, we're in the.
yes, yes, you are. Oh, okay.
And then for a few short sections, so down with a culvert crossing, I don't know if you've seen that, there's an existing concrete sidewalk. We'll be rebuilding that as part of the project. Down here near Edgewood,
the opposite end.
will be, because we're going over the culvert, we're hence in the buffer, and then down, there's another culvert crossing down at Union and Old Country.
No, country, I don't see where Edgewood is. Look at this Edgewood right
How
here.
far
There's
in
that.
the buffer is
That's
that?
Edgewood.
How much
Yeah.
square
Old
footage?
country.
Well,
but
not
it's-
so much
all
the
right.
square footage.
Yeah, that's either. What's that? The wetlands are.
The width of the site,
It's
the
No, but they're only
width
in
of
that
the
one
walk
area.
is 6,
Is 6?
Yes.
So the whole 6 feet are in that buffer?
just for sections. So wherever it's in the green, that would be the 50-foot. So in this section, it would be the whole 6, then we're
Okay.
outside the buffer. And we just clip the buffer here.
Okay.
And that, may I?
Sure.
That is a previously disturbed and developed site. That is an area that was, actually, the road used to go there, and the road was shifted when the sewer pump station was built. So that is where the sewer pump station is on Country Way. It's presently got a building on it, it has extensive concrete work, and then it has a paved driveway. So we will be on the non-wetland side of all of that. So that will be between us, between this path and that, and the wetlands.
So just to frame the discussion, this is a two-part project, but we are permitting the whole project.
Yes, I believe that would be the case. You'd be permitting the plan, the engineering plan. At this time, we only have funds to build one half of it. The second half would be constructed when funds become available, but would be constructed consistent with this plan.
That was done, the same thing like the Driftway walking trail, the Gannett Road walking trail.
Does that have to have some kind of time limit on
They
it?
can
No.
extend the orders.
Yeah, okay,
You got
cool.
3 years to start.
Yeah, okay, great.
So it makes sense to condition it. If the idea is that you're going to have a path or trail all the way through, you don't want to find out you build half of it
Yep.
and then you can't affect the other half, at least not because of some issue in the road. So
This is terrific looking, by the way. This is unbelievable.
our purview basically is any vegetation that's cleared in the buffer zones or the wetlands, and then looking at the drainage and runoff from this project. There's going to be, anytime that we have a project, we get concerned about impervious surfaces. This obviously is an impervious surface. So there'll be additional runoff from this sidewalk.
Just as a point of education, do we look at this project in its entirety and say, okay, it triggers stormwater, or do you only look at it in the areas that it is in?
Well, I think what he's, Justin, right?
Justin, yeah.
Justin's saying is that they are adding additional filtration
Yep.
in their runoff for that. So I'm just,
And there's calculations for all that in here, right? Yeah, gotcha, okay.
Yeah, this is
It's
big enough.
described, yeah.
Yeah, it triggered the statewide
Yep.
stormwater
Okay.
regulations, and within that, they have to do a stormwater pollution prevention plan, so it's really above and beyond what you would do under our local bylaw.
And
so
that,
there's cutting of trees
That's what I was
and all that sort of stuff that we would have purview just like a residential or a business development, but in the case of the town, it's for the, for the purposes of the road.
Yep. So our contract will have the stormwater pollution prevention plan, and they'll have to follow that, have your order of conditions, whatever those orders are. Those will all be included in the contract. We'll have to follow those.
And staging and all that stuff has to go through you, or is that?
We've had talks with the club up near First Parish.
Masonic Hall.
Yep, we've talked to them. The pump station, possibly, we would have to put erosion control. We've looked at different areas. I mean, it's not a lot of stockpiling, because you cut the material out, you have the
As you
truck
go,
there,
yeah.
and then you bring in a truck in with new gravel. And there's not necessarily a huge stockpile, but we will need a little bit of area, and we've talked to some of the residents about that and worked out some things.
Does that go in the order of conditions?
Yeah, and there's also pre-construction meeting, but lately we've had some issues with the selection of stockpile areas, so I think we'd like to really work that out with you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's up if the Masonic Temple would allow it, that's a great area, because it's all upland up there.
It's all paved as well.
But down the pumping station, it's surrounded by the stream and wetlands and
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
tough area.
Are there any trees being removed on this at all?
a lot.
All right, yep.
Yep.
There's a fair amount, and we'll be going to planning board on them in January. But there's about 30 trees that we'll have to take out, yeah.
If you went down Country Way,
They're pretty sick.
you'd see the,
Well, there's blue tape on them
Yep.
already. They're all marked.
Exactly.
Like the
A lot
We marked
are
them.
very old and kind of,
Same deal. I mean, the poles are on that side, which is never where you never want to start with a sidewalk, but it's due to wetland concerns and connector streets. We don't want street crossings. People drive fast on this road.
Yeah.
We can deal with getting around the poles and still maintain ADA access, not a problem, so it just made sense to have it on that side of the road.
And when he refers to the connector streets, if you do a count of residents that can directly access the sidewalk from their side of the street, there are many more on the
Northeast side.
on that side than on the other side. So there will be a proper ADA crosswalk at every connecting street, every crossing street, such as Williamsburg Lane, and of course across any ones that we go through. As far as trees are concerned, we budgeted in the project to one-for-one replace trees. So if we're taking away a tree, and we will work with residents to put a tree, if they would so like, we put the tree on their property. So if 2 trees are taken out in front of a house, we put the trees back with an easement from them, put the tree back.
on their property, so it
Yes,
doesn't grow into
further
the
back so
wall.
that 2 things don't happen. We've had, it's, where trees are now makes snow plowing difficult. It makes accidents more likely to happen. The trees then interfere with the power lines, and the power company cuts them so the trees now look like this. That's not healthy for the tree. It causes damage when the tree limbs fall on the street during the winter period. And also then trees then upset, over time, the roots upset the sidewalk. So we hope to move them back onto property where if the property owner doesn't want it, we'll find another place where we can replace trees. Obviously, they're not going to be 20-inch calipers, but they'll be,
Don't grow.
they will be not indigenous, what do you call it, native, the kind of trees grow that are supposed to grow in New England, not invasive fancy species.
Speaking of that, and I don't want to diverge, but we had a hearing, I think it was about Tilden Road.
Yeah.
And there was a resident that brought me in a whole packet on some kind of linden tree. I got to find that and give it to you. He felt that there was a big study done and that these were great trees.
They are great trees.
So I'll make sure I get that to you.
Okay.
So when you guys...
Lucky guy.
We'll pass it on, Al.
He came to the meeting and he handed me this packet on them, and I know I they probably gave it to Carol.
Don't blame Carol.
We'll find it. Okay.
I think it would be good to mention, we did have a public open hearing discussion with all the neighbors also in September.
Echo.
Oh, I think
Great.
it well attended.
45 people showed up on a rainy night over in the Marine Center. We invited everyone in the construction area. We didn't invite from Huey's south.
Yeah.
We'll do that, of course, when it becomes relevant. But we invited everyone in that construction site and, like 5 or 6 houses deep on the abutting streets. And a lot of good questions. We offered on that, as we've done on Stockbridge Road and other sidewalks, that we would meet, the engineers would come out and meet with residents at their property so they could go over specifically where would this fall in their property, what are you going to do about my father-in-law's stone wall that he built back in 1936, what about my favorite mailbox, where will that go? Justin, to his credit, has made numerous trips out to meet with residents and talk about issues that residents have at their property, and we've had, this doesn't mean that once we start construction, we don't run into someone who doesn't know about this project, but that's typical. So, but at this point, we feel like we're on a...
But the difference between this and a
Put our hand out.
sidewalk is that this is a little bit wider. It's a bike path walkway,
Right.
so it's a little bit wider than a sidewalk.
Exactly, it is it's a recreational path, okay? I mean, yeah, walking is recreation. Well, for people like me, walking is recreation, I no longer jog, run, I never really did, didn't like it, but, it's surprising to see along the driftway the number of people who have gone to life care and picked up their elderly relative and gone for a walk, pushing them down the sidewalk.
Oh, no.
Opportunity not available to those people though, until that sidewalk was built or that trail was built. The same idea here is that a broader spectrum of people will be able to exercise safely along our streets than are able to do on Country Way right now. Another thing is that we intend, if we have money, we plan to put in some more of those radar speed lights, which seem to be pretty effective at causing people to at least brake momentarily, or see how fast they're going. How fast will this car go?
Getting a second opinion.
Yeah.
Well, let's try to stick to the wetlands issue.
Well, that's right, you're not CPC, I'm not selling the project to you.
No.
Okay.
That was last year or 2 years ago. So maybe, unless you want to touch on anything else, I mean, it's obviously a concern for the replacement of the vegetation that's removed, and it's a concern that the wetlands are protected during this process. A couple of places where we're really close or in the buffer.
We'll have the silt sock barrier, so the big silt sock staked in, orange fence, so they know they can't go into those areas, so.
And then the existing catch basins will be protected.
Yep, we'll have silt sacks instead of like just throwing filter fabric. They're the triangular sacks that sit inside there, and they collect all the debris, and they have to maintain those. Those will be in the SWIP. It was mentioned for them to maintain and monitor those.
Can you show us maybe where the filtration pieces are, Justin, and the addition of the drainage? Because there is some water that flows directly into the reservoir in a couple of places along this route.
Yep, so everywhere, it's pretty standard for Country Way. They're approximately 300 feet between the catch basins, which is very standard for a roadway. So everywhere we have a catch basin, in this case you can see, well, you can't probably see, but it's proposed in the new walk. So it's in the new walk, it's off the shoulder, there's a paved little flume to that area. We are then bringing that up 6 inches for the curb, and it's now going to be in the walk with a drain manhole. We'll be adding a structure out in the road, the gutter line, which will have the debris collection that structure has. So we're doubling that debris collection for that structure, basically. And so that's typical for this entire side of the road.
So do those function as sort of that first flush sort of thing, and then DPW maintains those that clean them?
They would vac both of them, or clamshell both of them.
Okay.
We do have a couple walls that we'll be putting back in place, but they're all natural stone walls for New England and Scituate, so.
Penny?
No, I'm happy.
Bill?
I already got my questions answered,
Same here.
thanks.
Richard?
I'm good.
No, everything's answered.
Pat, have you had a chance to,
Yeah, one of the things I was wondering on the tributaries, I mean, you have something in there about the inland bank. It looks like there's one or two areas where there's inland bank. They're not going to be rip-rapping those bank areas.
Nope, we won't
Stay
be,
above.
Yep.
Okay.
there's no plans to touch any resource area, just buffer.
Okay, and then under the SWIP and under Water Resource Protection Bylaw, I mean, if there's any tributary to the reservoir and drinking water supply, there may be a higher standard of filtration. I don't know, did you have to go before them, Al, before the other committee? Okay. I mean, it falls under DEP stormwater regulations and, extra care taken around drinking water supplies, so, I mean, maybe with the SWIP and with the erosion controls and we'll be able to cover it, but we probably would run it by John Clarkson's group.
Yeah, we could look at, if we want, we could look at areas to maybe do a surface bioretention or a swale. I know there are some down at the pump station, so maybe we can incorporate some.
It gets pretty close to the reservoir now.
Yep, and take some road runoff and make that
Yeah.
situation better. Yep, I'd be happy to talk with you about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I guess open it up to questions from the audience? Is there anybody that, yes, sir. And you want to state your name and address, please?
Certainly. I'm Leo Darian. I live at 138 Country Way, the corner of Kennel Drive. And I'm sort of concerned about that corner. It was wet when I bought the place that I have there, slightly, but now that I see the swamp areas and that kind of thing, I think that was part of the problem. The town at the time was very good at putting some globe arborvitae that helped the problem immensely. But there is still in that region there where there's kind of a stone wall, there is still some sagging in the soil and so forth. And one of my concerns is when they put the trail in, will that be disturbed? And the other question I had from Mr. Banger, similar to what the gentleman said that they did in a previous sidewalk project. Are they going to do a similar thing to the people who live right along that trail? In other words, each area, if a person has a concern about his frontage, as I do, as well as that corner, there's a catch basin or something there that takes the water that comes down that hill. As you know, if you've been at 138 Country Way, it starts going upstream, so it's no question that the water sort of collects at that point. A lot of times the traffic does too, as a matter of fact, now that there's so much traffic there. So that corner there gets to be some sort of a choke point once in a while. And I think the people who live on, Drive and so forth would like to know what's going to happen. What is it going to look like after the sidewalk is put in? And the other question is, if you do transplant, let's say you take down the globe arborvitae because it interrupts it shouldn't, because there's a couple of poles that are just about at that level. So if you're going to leave the poles in, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, obviously, but I'm concerned about that, and I wanted to know with this gentleman here,
Maybe he could, I'd like him to point out the area, if it's up on here, could you show us where that, Justin, could you?
Mine pin out here.
Was one time, I have a little bit of a hearing deficit, so I may not have the right question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I believe one of the questions was, will we meet with residents before we build a second section? Was that one of the questions?
It wasn't so much the second section, sir, but each of the areas prior to do the construction, etc. For example, make the final judgment on which of them are prepared to meet with those people and actually
Yes.
maybe somebody
Yeah. The process is begin. We have to go. There would be an application to the Community Preservation Commission for someone to provide funding for the project. Those are very public meetings. They go on usually from September through to December. Then the projects have to be presented to the Board of Selectmen and then ultimately to town meeting. Okay, and that's just to get money. Okay, then to begin construction, what we do is we invite in all of the abutting property owners and people like 4 or 5 houses in from the street. All right, so that would collect your neighbors on Pin Oak Drive as well. And at that point in time, the engineer goes over, here's how we think we're going to build this trail in this particular area. Here's the plans that we have. At that point, then we would offer to meet with residents about specific issues at specific intersections in front of specific properties, about favorite bushes or trees or whatever. How is this going to affect my property? Where's the property line? And then the engineer would come out to your property, make an appointment with you or your neighbors and go through it all. And then we would do the best we could within constraints of safety for pedestrians and traffic and abutters, accommodate all those needs, as we have in this project. So when we met with the residents for the first section, and then came back and met with them individually, a number of changes were made along the way to solve resident driveway issues, resident stone wall issues, one was a septic system issue, all that sort of thing. So long before we get to that, which would be probably 2 years from now, but before construction would even be thought to begin, there would be this opportunity for you to weigh in on specifically your property. At this point, we could do that now, but it's so far away.
Sure.
Yeah, but I guarantee you that's the process that your elected officials require of the people who do projects do in order to meet the residents' needs.
Fair approach, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Question, please?
Can I ask, because
Go ahead.
the part that I heard was that he was concerned that area is a little bit wet. Is there any wetlands in that?
There's 3 catch basins, so they may not be, maybe they're not collecting, or maybe they're ponding or not functioning exactly how they were designed. So I'm happy to look at that.
But there's no wetlands
no.
in that area?
Oh, yeah.
We're outside.
Difference between wet and wetlands, yeah.
We're outside the buffer,
It
yep.
may be a road angle problem. It may be, that there's a missing catch basin in that area.
Yep.
I never
It may-
installed. It may be, I'm not sure what. So,
I think what I said was that it was wet at one time, and the town was good enough to put in the road arborvitae. I think that may have cleaned it up reasonably well. However, there's still some sinking there, and I'm not sure it's getting a lot worse or anything, but I'm concerned if some of that vegetation is taken out.
Right.
It may come back to...
right. Well, it would be our job to not aggravate or create that kind of situation. It's the town's job to not let that happen. Okay. And I recollect that we, a while back, maybe 5 years ago, is at Berkshire or Pin Oak, we did some work where we put in one of those catch basins that, is like a septic tank. It takes
Leaching basin,
Leaching basins, yeah. And that may be one of the things they did. Was there some construction along there as well, holes being dug?
What there is there, sir, is right at that corner, there's a large grading that looks to me like it's to collect surface water as it comes down the hill.
Okay.
And so whether that was put there at that time or not, I don't know. It's been there for quite some time now. I've been there for quite some time now, too, so.
All right. Well, when this project, if this project goes forward, it won't aggravate the situation at all. It would be designed to improve it. And if you have a problem, and if you are having a problem, you should go see the DPW and talk to them about that too, because they can begin working on it if there's an existing problem. Okay?
Now, can I ask, has this been approved for just the design, or wasn't it design and construction of the first phase?
Yes.
The DPW funded the design of the entire thing through DPW money. And CPC, that was part of the deal with CPC.
Okay.
CPC would provide construction for the first half if DPW would provide would engineer the whole path out of their dime.
But was this already voted to be funded, the first phase, was that already voted to be funded at town meeting?
Yes, yeah, about 3 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, we got a little delayed with the water main.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else, did you have another question?
I'll let someone else go. Talk about
Okay. Yes, sir, in the back.
I'd like to make up 33 Old Crest Road, just a couple quick comments and 4 questions for Mr. Banger. As you know, Countryway is a very busy road, especially if you get any accidents on 3A. It's immediately diverted to Countryway. It's very, very busy, highly congested, and also links in the Gates Middle School at this point. Who knows what in the future what that school will be. Does everybody know the amount that was appropriated in 2013 at the town meeting? The CPC vote, how much was it?
No.
I was at the meeting, but I forget the amount.
350.
Next question for Mr. Banger
That's
is,
probably-
what is the projected cost of the first section of the project?
Yeah.
Approximately.
What's the projected cost?
Again, just so you're clear, the hearings that we're having tonight, we can allow a little bit of freeboard,
Thank you.
but the hearings, our hearings from conservation standpoint are really wetlands issues and vegetation and to some degree tree. But there's a couple of simple things we want.
You were pretty excited about this project, and it's a good turnout.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm in the butter, so.
Sure.
And I would be glad to meet with him subsequently, but because the
other thing we suggested maybe is that following our meeting, while Al's here and the engineer's here, if you guys went down like the far end of the lobby.
They're moving along.
And they could-
I respect that.
Okay.
But one of the clearest questions was, what's the cost? That town meeting funded $500,000 for this first portion of this sidewalk or trail, and it's, even though there have been cost escalation since we began building trails back on Gannett Road and Driftway, we're projected to come in underneath that, 450 or so. Hope so. When we bid it, we'll bid it in such a way that we may have to pair. We'll leave a section we can pare back so that we can still move forward.
Just don't leave out any of the filtration or the...
Oh, that was the first thing.
Yeah.
That silt fence is too expensive to put in.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Jeff DeLisi, I'm at 318 Country Way. The path is on the east side of the road, right in front of the house. I have to say, I've met with Mr. Banger and Justin, and they've addressed concerns that I've had. I just had and I'm satisfied. I just had a quick question about the wetland, kind of, how did the town decide the limit of the resource area, in this case, along Country Way? Was there some kind of delineation, or is there some kind of map or understanding?
Do you want to, I don't know if they can turn this back a little bit, you can see where they flagged the...
Yep, so the delineation was performed by Horsley Witten Group, our wetland scientists, and field surveyed. Every flag was field surveyed along the entire length.
That's all. I just wanted to know that there was a survey.
Yep.
Anybody else? Steve?
Yeah, Steve Yorkman. I'm just curious that, and I'm going to, for a second, go to the zoning bylaw, only because it does pertain to the wetlands in one fashion. Section 520.5 refers to the buffer zone in this area to a tributary, and there's a 150-foot non-disturbance zone from any tributary. And in that, you have to make sure that you have no activities which cause earth movement or disturbance or vegetation removal or cutting. Now, I'm all in favor of the walkway. I think it's a great thing for the town. I'm just curious, because if you're going to do those things, you've got to file for a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And in your regulations, it requires before they come here, they have to at least file for all variances or special permits. And I'm just curious, you are crossing tributaries, I believe, with the pathway, and I'm just curious if you've gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals or at least applied prior to coming in here. That's all.
Well, the tributary to the reservoir is controlled through the zoning board.
Right.
But where are we crossing the tributary?
Well, there's a tributary at the bottom of Country Way,
Williamsburg Lane.
and then at William,
Well, that one,
I would say at the bottom of Country Way. I'm not sure, when that Williamsburg one was delineated, I'd be curious, Steve, whether that same regulation applied for roadways, or if you're citing something for development.
I actually went through, and there's no exemption for a town project in the Water Resource Protection District. There is in other areas, but in this particular one, the town's not exempt from that part of the bylaw, which is great. I mean, I think it's awesome that they're being treated the same as individuals who would come in with a project as far as protecting the tributaries are concerned. So, and again, the town can grant a variance from that section. They just have to apply for it prior to coming here.
Okay.
I think we started the discussion on this too, is to get back to the Water Resource Protection group, to ask them about that. As far as the work in the tributary though, this is up on the street surface. I know what you're saying, it's in the buffer. But if, with erosion controls and not having any work in the streams or on the banks, I think that the delineation may cover what we need on that. But I definitely think we should run it by Water Resource Protection. And if there's something in the zoning bylaw that needs to be covered by that, I mean, I'm sure they would know too. Water Resource.
Yeah, I would assume these plans would delineate the 150-foot zone, that's all.
They do.
this is
Okay. I think that is a valid point, that you would want to take a look at those
Yeah.
trip pieces. And it may be that oftentimes that's missed, that piece at the zoning, at the ZBA, because those trims are in that. And it is additional construction around that tributary, so it's not just repairing the road, but it's the addition of another piece
Yep.
of the road. So I think that's wise. And it may be that we don't want to close this hearing until we get that feedback, so. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
One more. The question came up about further meetings or the subject came up about further public hearings like this one. Will the abutters be notified, or should we keep an eye on the Scituate website to see when the next one is?
So if we're going to continue this this evening, I think we'd be wise to continue it rather than close it, especially with this concern about the tributaries. Because otherwise, if we close it, we can't add any more information. And as you point out, this is a process that's going to take a little while. So I think we'll continue it. We probably want to continue this out for a couple of months.
How about if what we do is we cut back the project and not include that section? Because we would like to go begin construction in the spring. And it's relevant only on construction in a presumed future project. It's not relevant in the project.
Which phase are you trying to start with now?
We're starting with the first parish to Huey, the northern section. From Ronnie Schoen's store past.
Williamsburg Lane is right.
Hey, excuse me, ma'am. I think it wouldn't be bad to continue this for at least a few weeks. Just check on that zoning piece. I mean, that's not going to impact you one way or the other.
No, I thought you said a couple of months.
Well, we could do whatever. I mean, I think you want to check with Neil. on that zoning piece and see when you could get, if you need to do it, and then how soon you could have that decision. To answer the folks' question about how would you know if it's coming back, typically we continue a meeting this evening, we pick a date. So anyone that has any interest would hear that date at this meeting. It should show up on the website as well.
Is this meeting, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
The same time, the same day each week, and that's...
We meet the first and third Wednesday. Yeah, but there's a couple of them that are shifting around, and we wouldn't be discussing this for at least a couple of meetings till they get back with some information. So we could look at a date, and we could continue this for, what, 3 weeks or something?
Well, we can continue it either to the 13th or the 27th of January. They're both.
That would be the applicant's call.
Yeah.
What was the date again?
The
13th,
13th or the
27th.
27th, yeah.
Of January?
January.
We should also
Submit the
mention
planning
too,
board?
I was just going to say
Can
that
do.
not every department has the same rules around notifying abutters and public meetings. So this is how conservation does it. Planning board does notify abutters, but if DPW was going to have something, they may just put it on the website.
And the
So
planning board on the
you
14th.
probably need to check back with the town.
13th?
13th?
Okay, can I-
Is there, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to state that in order to try to move the project along as well, if he has the answer to the zoning issue, you guys could probably have conditions ready at the next meeting.
Thanks. Anybody else? Any other questions? So when we come back to this, really what's left to discuss is this piece for the tributary, which it seems crazy, but a tributary to the reservoir is not part of our jurisdiction. It's part of the zoning board because it has to do with additional restrictions around the tributary that flows into the reservoir. And it just means that there's greater distances and there's some additional scrutiny that has to be taken in those areas. But as much as it might seem that the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over that, we don't. So ours will be dealing with
Why wouldn't we give them?
the erosion control, vegetation, and that sort of thing.
And why would you want to continue it?
Because you're supposed to have that piece before we close. Typically, you want to have those things approved before we close. Let's just say that, for instance, there's some piece that comes up in that tributary that means that you've got to make a slight change in this plan. So it'd be better to do it before we close than afterwards.
Makes sense.
Fine. Yep.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
I make a motion that we continue the town of Scituate Countryway Bike Path to January 13th at 6:30.
I know when you're on a mission out.
Second?
No.
It's
Take a
secondary.
vote.
All in favor?
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
That was a positive thing, Al.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, but I,
He had more projects completed. Where's the first one?
they're at 6:35.
Huey.
When are we gonna get this done?
About halfway.
Right. No,
Yeah, okay.
It should be a quick one.
We will get down there. I mean, it's, yeah, here it is.
So, well, I guess your part two.
This is a split tire. Yeah.
What am I missing here?
If I can get a copy of the plan, I'll send you an email or whatever.
I have a hard copy.
oh, yeah. Okay.
No, it's not.
You waiting for something?
The other shoe to drop.
Central Avenue.
I'm a good girl.
Okay, this next one's the, yeah, because we got to,
Wait, actually, we got to continue.
Can you close the door? And maybe just encourage everybody to take the discussion down the hall.
Hit the road. Down the hall.
Thank you.
Yeah. 94.
Boyajian, 94 Marion Road, Elevate. That's a continuation.
I think they withdrew today. There was a letter. It's been withdrawn.
Oh, I sent a letter
Yeah, I saw it.
to the board.
Yeah.
The applicant is withdrawing the notice of intent. He's no longer in the flood zone, according to the 2015 map.
And that bit of information came from Paul Marabito.
Yes, it did.
Dismissed from the office.
So do we do anything?
No. If it's just withdrawn.
Okay, that's all.
We just accept it?
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
BTZ Realty Trust Costello, lots 31 and 32 Fieldstone Road, concrete driveway, access 2 lots, not including this filing. And they're requesting a continuance?
Yes.
For how long? Did Jeff say yes? Greg say
I
yes?
believe it was to the next meeting, which would be...
Yeah, because they're going to meet with...
13th. Right, they have a meeting with the zoning board of appeals tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, that's right. Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue BTZ Realty Fieldstone to January 13th at 7 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
O'Brien, 19 Kenilworth, septic. This was a continuation, the Board of Health orders are ready, so can we close this?
I don't know if anybody came from that project or we're all set, because Board of Health approved.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
Okay.
And your name is?
O'Brien.
Okay. We did receive the revised plans from the Board of Health, and they've put a stamp on it, so.
Okay, so we can close this. Motion.
I make a motion to close 19 Kenilworth Street.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That was, I like that.
Morrissey, 240 Clap Road, new build, this is continued. Are those plans from,
Oh, yep.
was it Whitten? Are those ours or?
Paid for that. See, get a full screen. That person went off the sidewalk.
Oh.
$18.
But they do beautiful.
Yeah.
For the record, my name is Jeff Bassett with Morse Engineering. I'm here with Shan Morrissey, who is the property owner and the applicant. And this is a continued hearing that was presented by Greg Morse 2 meetings back. Since the last time we met on this project, we filed a stormwater permit. That stormwater permit has been reviewed by Pat Brennan, and I believe we've addressed all of his comments. We also have a letter from Natural Heritage saying that this project won't have any adverse impact on the habitat area. We received comments from the Board of Health, which we have addressed. And we've also moved the house further away from the wetlands, closer to the driveway. We did that in order to respect the 125-foot buffer zone in the vernal pool. So on this plan, the vernal pool is the first blue line, with this red line here being 125-foot no disturb zone. And then to the BVW, we have a 50-foot buffer that other setback, and then the green line being the 100-foot buffer. So again, no work within the 50-foot buffer, no work within the 125-foot buffer to the vernal pool, and only a small portion of the project is even within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Come up from the house, one delineation there, one pink line. Yes. What is in that? I can't see it from here.
That is the 125-foot.
Yeah, and what is noted inside that area?
Oh, that's a note pointing just inside that buffer zone, and along the entire limit of work, we're going to do a trench.
Great, thanks a lot.
Jeff, what's the date of this revised plan?
Today.
Today?
Not 12/15.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Okay. This is a little tricky. You have your 125. Well, if we approve all this, I would think we would have to ask for signage saying no disturb behind there, meaning for clearing and stuff. Yes, no? It's from the vernal pool. It's the 125-foot, the no disturb from the vernal pool.
We had talked about doing that, something like that before,
Yeah.
having some uniformity to those.
Station posts.
Right, exactly right.
That's all. It's just sad because they really don't get a backyard, but that would have to be an understanding.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request to put the markers along there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bill?
I appreciate you working with us and making the modifications, and thank you very much.
They took all my thunder.
Tell mine too. Lisa?
What I do.
Also,
Pat?
No, we were waiting for the okay from Pat Brennan on stormwater and from Fisheries and Wildlife. That's the quickest I've ever seen anything come in from Fisheries and Wildlife. So everything was met. And I think there was one change that Pat Brennan requested that Jeff and he worked on and finished.
Anybody in the audience? We can close this?
I make a motion to close.
You good with that, Pat?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we can put a condition on the plaque, conservation post.
There should be some posted.
Someday, we keep talking about getting one. Someday we
Right,
actually will.
Company closed, and new company ratified.
What's that, you gonna get the plaque themselves?
Yeah, we were gonna get them.
Standardize the post to the plaque so everybody's done.
Triple the price.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Diamond Development, 50 Old Oaken Bucket Road, new build, relocate drainage easement, stormwater.
Turn on the hearing. Which he declined, right?
Well, he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, if I can, just a quick update. Steve Bjorkland, for the record, the applicant. We came in with this project for a notice of intent and a stormwater permit. And when we left the last time, I think I had asked the question whether there were any issues regarding the notice of intent, and there were no questions around that. I think the questions revolved around the stormwater permit. And Pat had chimed in on what we were going to do to send that out for review and make sure that the stormwater was taken care of with the basin that we had designed at the back of the property. And since that meeting, we had drainage calcs done, which showed that we held the 100-year storm event inside the basin that's there. And that was reviewed by DPW. I'm Sean McCarthy, and Sean gave a letter, I think that, according to Carol, I think that went to all the members. And Pat had asked for a tree line on the plan, which we added to be not just a tree line, but also limit of disturbance. So that's on there as well. That's basically the changes that we had made. And I'll answer any questions if I can.
So the basin that was proposed is not going to be built, or it is going to be built?
No, the basin that's there, well, we actually have two options, and Pat had brought it up at the last meeting, that in the bylaw, if we disturb less than 15,000 square feet of land area for the construction of the home, then we're exempt from the stormwater bylaw, in which case we would only need a stormwater permit just to move the drain line. So I actually have another plan which shows that, if the commission so wanted us to do that and not construct the basin area. It's our preference to actually build the basin area because we think it better protects the people that are in the area, and it's going to control the stormwater more. As you know, the stormwater bylaw is in the midst of going through some changes, and we believe at Springtown meeting, this project may be completely exempt from it anyways, but we have to design it in accordance with it not changing. So we've done that in both ways. One, that we hold the 100-year storm event, and two, that we have a supplemental plan which will show that it's not applicable to the site anyways.
Steve, can you show on the plan where the area of tree cutting, where the basin, it's a little, in the dock area is a little bit tough, so it might be helpful to the...
Well, the tree line on the plan, I mean, we added the tree line to it. Oh, geez, it's on this one here, excuse me. The commission has the new plan. It's actually on the old plans.
So what we're talking about is the determination of work.
Yeah, the limit of work, but it's also, there's riverfront area there too, so you try to balance between minimizing disturbance in the riverfront area, but capturing stormwater and treating it with a basin. There's just so many options on this one. It's good to maybe have Steve explain them, and we could go through the letter from DPW. And your engineers submitted some new calculations in the last few days that went out to you in email. And Sean McCarthy looked at those from DPW to see if they made sense.
They lined up, yep.
Captured on site, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, on this particular plan here, which is the first plan that we had submitted, we show the hay bale line, which is a tree line, which is the limit of work. So on the opposite side of that, we have some area that's outside the 50-foot buffer, which is not going to get touched, and we're certainly willing to accept that as a condition. But the clearing within the 200-foot outer riparian zone on the back of the property for the construction of the basin, also some additional lawn area in there, amounts to about 3,000 square feet of area for the trees to be removed. So we can go up to 5,000 square feet in the riverfront area. So we're well below that, even with this clearing in here. And the house is a couple hundred square feet of the house is also within the 200-foot outer riparian zone.
What was the 5,000 feet? You said that...
We can disturb 5,000 square feet of the riverfront area.
Under the Riverfront Act, yes.
That's in accordance with our bylaw?
That's a state, that's a state.
It's the Wetlands Protection Act, Rivers Protection Act.
Rivers, yep, okay.
So we're under that by a few thousand square feet. Or 10% of the lot, I believe.
So,
I was just gonna say, and you have the other plan too, Steve, that you could put up to show.
If the commission chooses and wants us not to construct a stormwater, we can take this area in here where the stormwater was going to go, and we now have a tree line in here that we would save everything that's in this area here. The only thing we'd have to do is to clear just to get the drainage pipe back in again. Basically a pathway through there.
So the existing drain pipe runs through the proposed middle of the house?
Right straight through and out to the brook up here.
And what you're proposing to do is move that drain pipe around?
Yep. And add a storm scepter up at the front.
So presently, is there an easement for that drain?
There's an easement in place for the existing drain line. It's been there since about 1938, I believe. And we've gone to the Board of Selectmen, and we've got their approval to relocate it and grant them a new easement or a relocation of an easement to where it shows on this plan.
And then does the pipe continue, Steve?
Yeah. What happens is the pipe goes right through from a catch basin out here in the street, goes right straight down through, continues all the way down, and there's a head wall, which is right in the river.
So I'm a little lost as to why we would need the basin.
The only purpose of the basin on the other plan is only for our water on our site.
I get you.
And again, it's designed for a 100-year event, so one day in 100 years, that basin might fill up.
Okay. So constructing it with this, without cutting the trees, you're under the 15,000.
Yeah.
So technically you don't need a stormwater.
We only need a stormwater permit for just the drain line itself, and that's because in the regulations it says any alteration of a drainage system that's servicing more than 15,000 square feet. Not to be confused with 15,000 feet of disturbance, but coming down Old Oak and Bucket Road, the drainage is well over 15,000 square feet going into the particular pipe. So we have to get a stormwater permit just to relocate the pipe.
And that's why Sean Murphy, as opposed to an independent consultant, Sean McCarthy, reviewed this. I mean, I was just a little puzzled. I mean, typically, the town isn't reviewing stormwater.
Right. What happens is it's a town drain. It's not a private drain. It's actually a town drain. So we're doing upgrades to the town drain with the concurrence of DPW and the Board of Selectmen. So, and part of that, again, is putting that storm scepter in, which doesn't clean any of our water. It just cleans the water that's coming down Old Oak and Bucket Road and going across the site.
And that's what you did in exchange for removing the easement from the property.
Yeah.
Steve, is the basin, if we looked at the basin piece, is that constructed just for this one house, or is that overbuilt for future possibilities?
It's just for this one
Knowing
house.
you, yeah.
And again, presently, the stormwater bylaw says that we have to contain a 100-year storm event for any single-family home that's constructed on site that disturbs more than 15,000 square feet of area. That's one of the number one things that is being looked at right now and will be proposed for town meeting to get rid of the 100-year storm event and potentially go down to a 25-year storm event.
But this basin would be just for this house? I mean, it's constructed just for this house? Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, none of the town drainage at all goes into the basin.
Yeah.
So I see a letter here from Anthony Esposito, who I'm assuming is your engineers, with regard to the basin.
Yes.
But we don't have...
We have Sean's letter as well.
But, so Sean reviewed the basin as well as the drain?
Yeah, again, at Pat's request, at the last meeting, we had to show that the basin would hold a 100-year storm event.
Right.
And that's what Sean reviewed.
Sean had earlier comments about the street drainage and the storm scepter, so there was a letter back December 2nd, and then this one was this week.
So which project, I guess, are you proposing?
I'd like to do the basin because I think it's the right way to do it. But we're also willing to, I mean, you know, there was a question about saving the trees on the back of the lot. We're willing to do either of the two, and I know you guys don't like to design projects. We basically showed the original plan to the butters in here, and there is a driveway that goes across the back of the property. In my own opinion, I think by putting the basin in there, I'm going to be containing all the water that could potentially make it to that driveway. So I prefer to do it with the basin.
Steve, what about the option of the trees and then administrative review, because it's been, you know, approved by the DPW engineers, so it wouldn't require a full stormwater review, even though you're changing the flow of the...
Well, it's administrative review right now. It just happens to be that we're talking about it in front of the commission, but we're disturbing under 40,000 square feet, so between 15,000 and 40,000 is an administrative review.
But I mean, a review engineer may not be necessary from a consultant pool. I mean, I'm just thinking, if you can get under the 15,000,
yeah,
you wouldn't have needed it unless you have to reroute these pipes, but because of that, you do need some type of a stormwater review. If this and Sean McCarthy's review could cover that, you could leave the trees and it wouldn't be a gigantic cost for a single-family lot to...
Well, Sean has no issue with the drain. I mean, with the drain pipe going around, he already had sent something in on that.
Right, but we you know, we're responsible for issuing stormwater permits, so I'm just trying to get at it away with, I mean, if you do the basin,
Yep.
that triggers it by the amount of vegetation that can move.
Correct.
Right. If you leave the trees, you still have to do some kind of a review on the stormwater. And you're saying that Tony's work and then his review has covered that?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, all we're doing, at that point, all we're doing is putting in a storm scepter, which cleans the water, and it's a closed pipe. I mean, the whole way, it's just a 21-inch closed pipe.
Well, I think you've done a lot of things we've asked you to do and to look at, so I'm not an engineer, I don't know which project would actually be better, but it seems like both of them are possible options.
For the obtuse one in the group, if you don't build the basin, and you still have roughly, how many square feet of disturbance? 15,000?
Just under, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Then you would still need to deal with that runoff. How does that happen if the basin's not there?
You only have to deal with that runoff in regards to the stormwater bylaw.
Right.
Which we're exempt from if we disturb under 15,000.
So it would be under that, okay, I got you, okay.
So when they put the basin in, they disturb more trees.
Then it goes over.
And last time everybody
There,
said how many
light
trees
dawns
are you
on
gonna
Marblehead.
cut?
There we go.
And ultimately, what happens is if you prefer that we leave the trees in that area,
Yeah.
that area, you'll get some infiltration out of there by leaving the trees and stuff in there, but it's not going to be something that's going to hold this 100-year storm event.
Yep.
Which, again, timing, again, in 3 months, we might not need to do it anyways.
Right.
I
I was watching the planning board meeting the other day.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Meeting again tomorrow night.
Yes. You're gonna be there, right?
Not gonna be there, 'cause I have to go to the...
Oh, because you have to go to the other one, right?
Yeah, we're going to CV.
Richard?
I'm pretty clear finally on both plans. If you want me to say which one I prefer, I'm going to wait and let them go down the line first.
Well, I was just going to say, Steve basically called our bluff because everybody was concerned about the tree cutting in the basin, and he came back with a plan that doesn't do that. And now the commission's like, well, which plan?
I'm
Leave the trees.
There's,
I'm not saying that-
there's no question in my mind, you
Right.
know, where
And
our,
I'll admit, I'm putting you on the spot.
yeah.
Okay, that's all right.
Lisa?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see the way this
You've
is
been so
fine.
quiet.
We've done this, good.
Are you sick?
Obviously, I'd like to keep the trees, but it's logical to capture the water, so I'm going to go in favor of
Well, I
sacrificing
don't
the
think
trees to
we're
get the water.
Here's maybe something to think about.
But I'm just saying, that's my opinion.
Right.
Based on what I'm saying, it sounds like the thing to do is, even though the trees would absorb some of it by not having the disturbance, ultimately, it sounds like...
I guess my concern would be a little bit more of a precedent-setting thing, Steve. So, and not to all this up, but you made a point earlier about the zoning with the tributary and following procedure.
Yep.
So typically, with a stormwater piece, we would request a consulting engineer to review this project. Correct? The town requests that the developer hire a consulting engineer to review the drainage. In this case, the town engineer reviewed the stormwater piece for the drain pipe.
And the basin.
My concern would be that we would then be turning back to the town engineers to review the basins. We're not doing that. The town said we don't have people to review the basins or any stormwater piece. We give that to an outside
The
consultant.
review for the basin has already been done by DPW. All done.
You're saying it's done by DPW. My concern is that when anybody presents a project to us, we send that out to an outside consultant to review this. Am I right? Yeah. And I understand the aspect of DPW reviewing the drain pipe because it's for the town.
Right.
I guess I'm concerned about the DPW reviewing the basin for this project, and then the fact that if it doesn't work, is the town accepting some responsibility for that as well? I don't know. I'm just...
It's the design engineer, because the same thing would happen if you sent it to an outside consultant. You're just going to go back to the design engineer.
Steve, do you have the section in there that talks about Sean reviewing the basin? I mean, is that something you could go through with the commission?
I'm reading a letter here.
The letter.
I have a letter here from Sean McCarthy that I'm reading, and I'm just a little bit, it's talking about the rim of the basin and holding water.
But if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like most of the commission likes the plan that doesn't cut the trees and doesn't build a basin, which kind of takes the basin off the table.
Right.
So, end of discussion on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we need to take a head count? Make it official?
Well, at some point we do.
Because we have to close it with one plan, not either or.
Right.
Right.
Then,
Well, personally, I think in most cases, we've opted to keep more vegetation.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Unless
well,
it's
I think that's
unless-
consistent.
I'll make a motion for the plan without the basin, that we close the meeting for the plan without the basin.
Which is referred to as the land disturbance plan.
Which one is?
That one. That's without the
The
basin.
title block is land disturbance plan. So that would be the reference plan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't want to vote for anything that says, yeah, well, whatever they call it.
The
Yeah,
plan
but-
without the basin.
Yeah, that's supposed to be less disturbance of this land. Yeah, second, anyway. Pat, you're good with this, right?
Is that
The December 15 plan.
I prefer that one as well.
And do we need to, we just did a project, the last one, calling for some delineation that, I mean, we don't have a vernal pool or anything, but we do have a rivers piece in here. So, I mean, we just want to keep running against this issue of people.
Okay, well, what's that line, the 200 or the 100?
This right here is the 200.
Yeah,
100's down here.
I would say the hundreds are no disturb, the 200.
Yeah, I think the limit of tree cutting,
But-
I mean,
But this project is being approved because he's not going to disturb
The tree.
greater than 1,500 feet.
Okay, so I see what you're saying,
Right.
along the tree line.
Yeah, I hear you.
Some-
If that's what we're trying to,
Yeah,
I mean, we just keep running against this
right.
all the time,
Yeah.
where someone else comes in, picks up the property. There's one that's a stone's throw from this project that we're still trying to contend with.
So
Penny will drive by and they'll be clear cut.
Steve, the brown area is all the remaining vegetation.
Yeah.
And
As well as over in here, I just didn't call the whole plan, but near the house
we'll
location,
color
yeah.
it. We'll color that. No, but I think that you're right. I mean, we should mark that somehow, maybe the conservation post idea, not on the riverfront line, because it would be through the middle of the yard, but maybe.
No.
No problem with the condition that talks about posts and things like
Yeah.
that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Because they just pull them out and throw them away.
And as I stated before, we will be involved in the drain line
Like his
itself.
other
If I sell the property, I'm still going to put the
They
drain
just
line
pulled
in.
everything out.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this?
We already have a motion, we already have a second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Bill.
I'm here to help.
I'm not like a dog on a bone. He wasn't letting that get away.
So this vote was to close and then we'll present. conditions.
With orders of conditions, right?
We just closed it, that's on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Trees.
Thank you. And I appreciate the work on the drainage.
Yeah, well, he'll definitely clean it up, there's no doubt about it.
Post.
George, 162 Central Ave, 80 yards cobble, landward of riprap,
Doesn't
septic repair.
Except it's 262.
260, sorry. On December 16th, 7:15 PM at Town Hall, wish it was. Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Joy to place approximately 80 cubic yards of cobble material landward of the riprap wall and repair an existing septic system on property located at 262 Central Ave, Pomeroy. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. Stan Humphreys, coastal geologist with LEC Environmental Consultants, and the owner, Mr. Joy, is with me this evening. I'm not so sure that I've heard specifically that this work has been done. This is an after-the-fact filing. You've met with Mr. Joy before, as well as Joe Scanzillo, contractor. We'll just go over the existing conditions. I think you may all have this 11 by 17 plan that was submitted. On the ocean side, there is an existing loose boulder riprap seawall. There's an open space area of about 10 or 15 feet in width. There's one of the two septic system barriers that follow the piles of the deck. Under the house, there's the septic system. This is a leach field shown here in blue. The other retaining wall that I mentioned is on the landward side of the septic system, and then Central Avenue. What I've highlighted in yellow is the area between the retaining wall for the seaward retaining wall for the septic system and the boulder riprap. This is where about 80 cubic yards of cobble-sized material was placed. It's well-graded, meaning that it's all between 6 and 8 inches in diameter. That falls well under the geologic definition of a cobble, being 2 to 10 inches in diameter. We met with Pat, and he had expressed some interest in understanding why angular stone was used instead of round cobble. In this particular instance, Mr. Scanzillo had done some research into stormwater management primarily, where DEP recommends graded riprap of this size. I think in most coastal situations, we typically deal with a concern about rounded cobble because it's interacting with the beach. It's more compatible in terms of its shape and how it's formed on the beach. But in this particular instance, this is an isolated area between an existing seawall and a retaining wall, essentially. It's an inactive area in terms of the sediment supply and exchange back to the beach. If the boulder riprap wall wasn't there, I think I'd have a little bit more concern about its angularity. But in this case, I think the purpose of it to handle overtopping of water and velocity water at that, percolation rates, intercepting and being able to drain this area better, not end up washed out and on Central Avenue is my
Does the
main
state make
concern.
that distinction in that area? I mean, they're not going to make that distinction. They say what you can and can't put in that area in proximity to...
They look at graded riprap differently than they do rounded cobble.
Okay.
So, but...
And if you're behind a seawall, it's a different situation than if you're in front of a seawall as well, on the beach too.
It gets tricky down there, and in this case, it had been covered with sand and cobble and got washed away and destroyed, so this is an attempt to try something.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Okay.
That's a good question, though, because that's, I think, the big issue on this project.
Okay.
Maybe to put it in other terms, if this was a beach nourishment project, I think that's where this issue of well-graded or rounded might come into play. But as I said, I think, there were no additional boulders added. It wasn't an expansion of the seawall. They're not putting sand back in, which is just going to get washed out again, and as they say, end up on Central Avenue and be another problem for the town and removing materials from Central Avenue and figuring out where to put it.
So Stan, you're saying this type will not get washed into Central Ave?
Not as fast as sand. As compared to round and cobble, it's probably going to, I think, it'll probably move the same. I mean, it may interlock better because it's angular.
Okay.
But remember, with this barrier reconstructed because of the storms,
right,
is going to hold material below its elevation. Now, if the waves come and move that material up and over that retaining wall, it'll be at least under the house. I don't know if won't move as fast as sand.
It'll move into the street.
When we were out there...
I'm not going to say it won't. Will all of it? No. Less material now will move into the street than what was there prior.
That's what I was going to say. When we were out there, Mr. Scanzillo was very clear that he felt that it would move much less than the rounded stones.
Right, I agree.
And you were a little more hesitant about it at first.
It's somewhat contained between two wall structures, so, I mean...
Which is a unique situation, I think.
Right. I mean, I think if it was direct waves or nothing on the other side, I don't think you'd be able to trap it there. This may be able to be contained and trapped there, but I don't know.
My concern is if it does get washed out...
Wait a minute. The whole purpose of replenishing it was because it was removed. There were 3 dump trucks that showed up at the house.
And did what?
To replenish this. So it went somewhere.
Somebody took it out?
The septic was removed. The septic failed. And so this is the covering for the septic. So, well, we didn't get a permit ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, I understand that part.
We didn't know what it was, so.
I understand, yep.
Does that answer it?
No, I don't feel the explanation in what was delivered is really one and the same.
Well, I'm under that last year, the wall got damaged, the riprap got damaged, more water got in here and pushed and took it somewhere else.
Right.
To somebody else's house.
It was not excavated out artificially and then replaced with new material. The new material was added to replace what had been lost during the storm.
But there was 1 dump truck of riprap and 2 dump trucks of rough cover.
Oh, 80 yards. Depending on the size of the truck, I don't know.
So if you needed 3 dump trucks worth of material, I would have to assume you lost 3 dump trucks worth of material.
Yes, right.
Through the storm.
Right.
And so it will do the same.
Possibly.
Well, hopefully this is going to work.
This is all cobble now.
Attempt to keep the septic out of the South River, yeah.
I don't know what the percentage of sand and cobble was previously, but it was the smaller material, smaller than cobble size, that I think was moved out of there. That's according to Joe and his explanation to me.
So by putting in the larger stone, oh no, there was a dump truck with stones this size.
Oh, that's new to me.
This is a frequent request of other people in the neighborhood to do things like this. And when they have asked, they've been denied. But this was done without a permit, so this is why this is
Well, one of the things I think Stan was getting at, that it absolutely can't be used for a beach nourishment or landscaping or something like this. I think it was septic system that got destroyed. This is what they've been using, and they were hoping that this could be used. And we don't know the answer, and maybe it's something that we say, give it a try or whatever, because it was scoured before. It was sand and cobble. Washed the system away, took the pipes and everything.
So we're protecting a septic system? Is that the gist of this whole thing?
That's what
the only
he brought it
reason
in
they're
for,
putting it on is to protect the septic.
It's all under the house area.
Okay, so then based on that, if someone has a request to put riprap on top to protect a septic system, then we're letting that,
Well, it's a good thing to look at, because your goal is to have a working septic to protect the environment, and if they're getting scoured and washed into the street in the South River, that's not an environmentally positive situation.
So riprap would protect a seawall that protects a septic. I just want to make sure that we're treating everybody the same. So if this is the case, then everybody that's that in Scituate wants to protect their septic, whether it's surrounded by a wall, a double wall, then we have to vote the same.
was there a wall prior to this, I guess, was there a revetment prior to this at-work stand? Do you know, was there?
I don't know.
There was a barrier right here.
I think his,
Washed away.
if I understand your question,
I mean, there's two things. A revetment is really large stones that create a wall. And then I think of riprap as 8-inch or so stone that's used to cover this so it doesn't wash away as opposed to sand. And I think that was Mr. Scanzillo's sort of argument when he came in, or discussion, was that when he had looked at some guidelines from the state to avoid erosion, they had recommended angular riprap placed on that, right?
That's
In front
right,
of the
that's what he
seawall.
said to us.
Not in front of the
No,
seawall.
behind the
No.
seawall. Big difference.
The revetment is larger stone placed, and my question is, was there a revetment prior to this work?
I don't live there, I don't know.
and that's the boulders.
Yeah, we had that there, but they're all taken care of for the last 4 years with the storms, the boulders have been moved.
Okay.
What the contractor did was take the existing boulders and added some to it, and built that seawall.
Rebuilt it, is what you're saying?
Right.
So, to Lisa's
Behind
point,
that.
Those stones protect the footings of the seawall to keep it from getting scoured.
Right.
That protects the septic.
right. So there's a seawall as well as a revetment here?
No, I've used the term
Okay.
boulder riprap seawall.
Seawall, okay.
It's not an engineered
Or poured,
revetment with
Okay.
bedding stone,
okay.
So,
the like.
Pat, if someone were to come to us and thereby the state and ask for this to get done, get permitted, would it get permitted the way that it's done?
I mean, it came into us as a septic repair.
Yeah.
And he recommended trying it this way. I mean, we've had sand and cobble, but that's what this had, was sand and cobble, and it
Yeah.
washed away, so, I mean...
But this project would theoretically have been okayed.
I don't know.
Theoretically.
I don't know. I think Lisa has a good point, is, there's people that have wanted to do, jagged stone, and it hasn't been allowed.
That's where I'm going.
I mean, we've looked at a couple of recent pilot projects. I mean, if the septic installer says that, this may be because it's trapped on both sides, and it's not gonna be stone that washes in and out with the tidal, action. I don't know. I mean, the state is, looking at everything different down there. We have seawalls, we have riprap, we have nothing, we have pilings, we have, all in a row, so.
I mean, I guess our preference has been that rounded stone be used. We know we can't get the,
River stone?
yeah, the real, what's the term for the stone on the shingle beach type stone. Exactly, but what we'd be getting is sort of like screened material. So it's like a river stone or a rounded stone, not crushed. The angular stone is a process of crushed stone, and it's just not as small. And probably in 50 years it'll be rounded stone.
I like what Pat's been saying lately, though, a lot, we know a lot of the things that don't work.
Didn't work, right.
And we keep doing them over and over again, and you drive down Central Ave and look at all the septic systems in the street. It's not bad to try something.
And on the beach, you wouldn't want the jagged stone because
Right.
it doesn't allow the shifting with the tides, but Joe's, when we sat down with him, the drawing he had, it was contained in an area. It really, I mean, a big storm comes, it could get washed out of there, but on a regular tide, it's trapped within a concrete area.
But we do know when the waves
Big
wash
waves.
over that and hit that,
Yeah.
that stuff can be thrown like marbles. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no,
Right.
it's no big.
Right. It is behind a seawall and under a house, so you're not going to get the big wave action as much, so.
And on the beach. In front.
The cobble for this?
No, there's some stones in front of the,
Natural cobble. that's part of the beach now, and has been all along Home Rock? Is that what you're referring to? Not the dumped material. I guess I'm having a...
I think the dumped was landward of the boulders.
Right, that's what I have highlighted.
Right.
Okay. That's the 80 yards we're referencing in the notice.
So what are we calling the stone that's this big?
Boulders. I'm sorry, were you asking me, or?
So,
Anything larger than 10 inches is really considered a boulder.
okay. And
Anything
you,
less than that's riprap.
and you only
or
found out about the boulders
copper.
tonight?
I'd heard that some had been moved around.
What about
New
the new,
boulders,
what
no.
about the new dump?
That's the first I've heard.
So where did they go?
Probably into that boulder riprap.
So you're saying additional stone, large stone was added?
Yep, there was one dump truck of large and two. I only know that because my phone rang off the hook. Saying, how come they can do this? That's what I'm saying. We need to make sure we're treating everybody the same.
Right.
The same way.
So what
One
is your
person can do
suggestion?
things, let's let everybody do it.
So what's your suggestion here?
We
That we do what?
We need to make a decision if we're going to allow this, then anyone that is...
It's already done, right?
Well, it was already done before permit.
Right.
So the question is...
So the people that
do
are
we actually
asking...
remove it,
Right.
a piece of it, or is it left there to try this? I guess I'm trying to remember when folks have, and I don't mean to interrupt, Lisa.
No, that's okay.
When people have come in before in various areas where what I call revetment was either one that's built well or that's loose, has been damaged by the storm, have we allowed them to add additional stone to that? Is part of your concern, right?
Right, because there have been people that have been denied, that have gone through the process.
Have people been denied not to build a wall, and like if there was nothing there at all? But if there were some parts of a wall there, have we allowed people to add additional material to that wall?
Yeah, did we just do that in Minot?
We have a current one that, fabric is put down, the boulders are moved around, fabric is put in there, stones.
And then sometimes
chink
small
stones or whatever.
Small stone is laid there to protect that, and then the wall is rebuilt on top of that. But when they do that process, because what we don't want to have happen is have that undermined.
Right.
People can't build a brand-new seawall or revetment on a barrier beach.
Right.
But if there's something that's pre-existing, or they have a concrete wall, we've allowed them to put material there to protect the base of that wall. I believe we've done that.
Right, DEP...
Do repairs.
DEP favors just repositioning rather than adding new ones, but if you're getting undermined walls, then you can place footing stones where the undermined is.
So you can put riprap in front of the seawall to protect the footings?
If it's
Well,
part of the
actually,
design of the wall.
3 years ago, that was the flavor of the day for DEP. We don't like concrete walls because they scour, so it's even better if you can put riprap in front of them to diffuse the wave action and not scour off the wall.
Well, I believe the town has done that.
That's right.
Yeah, down Minot.
Right.
And they're doing it at Edward Foster right now.
Yeah, right.
Finished. The commission now has a plan with spot elevations of these boulders, approximately elevation 15. So at least now that's in the record as being a structure that exists. I would suggest that in the future, if there are more storms and there's more damage, that the restoration at least acknowledge what the existing elevations are. If it's proposed to be higher, then that should be part of a new notice of intent. But for the time being, this is more of a plan than what's been in the record, as far as I could see. Although we didn't pull the town file on this site. I'm not sure. Yeah, it had septic system plans.
Well, I mean, I, for one, I would say, let's leave it the way it is, and I think that there should be some kind of ongoing feedback from you guys as to how things are going. So if this is already done, it doesn't make sense to me to undo it, but let's use it to the best of our ability and get some kind of feedback as to how it's working after storms or whatever, or that type of thing.
I think the wording would have to be specific for a septic repair project with a recommended stone size by a, licensed installer. Maybe we do a pilot project for this and see how it works. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to suggest, but...
Can I ask Stan a question? So you're looking at this sort of after the fact. Is there anything else that you would recommend in doing this type of project to add to this that would make it any more environmentally correct, I guess? Sound or correct?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. The material was kept at an elevation below the height of the boulders, even with the top elevation of the retaining wall. Had there been a larger mound,
That wouldn't be good.
I don't know that I would be favorable to that.
Okay.
This material additionally is going to hold those boulders more in place, so they're not going to be drifting towards Central Avenue.
Okay.
The boulders can roll.
So I have a question for you. So in the two areas, in the area here that was filled, and they're being contained by two concrete walls?
No, one's a boulder wall, and the other one's timber.
Okay, so the one facing the ocean is a boulder wall?
Right. Which was on the property.
And then the one behind it
It
is
was not
timber?
new, there wasn't newly constructed boulder riprap, from what I understand.
Well, they were placed, they were boulders there.
But
they were
moved around by the storm, so
the outcome of that. There were some added to it.
Okay. So there wouldn't be any other changes that you would see beneficial to?
I mean, part of me says sand and some vegetation, get some beach grass out there, but I don't know what kind of value ecologically that would really...
I don't think that would work in a velocity zone.
Exactly, it'd be wiped out again.
I think the mistake was that this was an after-the-fact thing, but I would be inclined, I was out there with Pat, and I think I would be inclined to go with what Paul said, and that is figure out a way to use it as a test case. I think it's much more prudent than trying to get it ripped out, and granted, it's not really winter, but it is, and we're getting away with it, but use it as a test case, and it may need more than 1 year. If we end up having a really easy winter, hopefully we do. We may need more than 1 year to find out if it's really going to work, but we might learn something from it. And I don't think it can be worse than what we got last year.
Yeah, we lost 15 systems along that stretch last year, so whatever was being used isn't working, so.
As long as what we do here and now is in no way construed to be some kind of open ability for people to do these things, that we,
That's why I say there's a mistake, there's still a mistake made there, and we can't keep allowing it. I absolutely agree with that.
There you go.
So you can't keep allowing what?
Can't keep allowing people to come in after the fact, after they do the work.
And how do you stop them?
I don't know.
You tell them not to bother filing.
Well, I mean, if it's...
Like, stop it after the fact.
Or, at some point, we're going to get in there and rip it out. In this case, we don't think that's environmentally...
And then somebody's septic fails? There's 3 other houses down the street that are going to be doing the same thing.
Let's see.
To protect their septics. So we could, are we going to document? So we're going to do a test case. Do we, what do we do to see if it works? Is it done by Concom or?
Well, this was a replacement for a failed system. I wasn't saying, like, my system's working, I want to protect it better, let me put rocks on it. This was ripped out.
This has a DEP number, right?
Yeah, did we get one this? Not quite yet. Yeah.
I don't know, you've got the file, it should be on.
It wasn't on it today, unless it came in today. No, it's not on there. So.
Does DEP look at after-the-fact filings like they look at a regular filing?
Probably pretty much the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Okay.
They may comment on it. They commented on one recently, and they said you can reposition stone boulders, but, you know, don't add, you know, we recommend that adding them is the biggest step, and you need to file and, you know, go through extra steps.
So which is it? If you're going to add extra, this is where we need to be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, but
if you're going to add, you got to file.
Except for the fact that if you have a seawall and you want to raise the seawall 2 feet, same footprint, rebar, whatever, that's been allowed. So it's, adding isn't always prohibited.
But they're saying seawalls are failing. It's not seawalls failing, it's the footings are failing, but by putting the riprap there, it prevents the scouring of the footings of the seawall.
In the cases where they're in jeopardy, they've been allowing stone to be placed at the base of those.
It's buried.
And it's got to be larger stones. The small stone's just going to get blown away.
I've seen the buried ones more than the big boulders just placed in front of the walls. We've seen, if it was designed with the big boulders, they put them back there, but we've seen some that are buried at the base of the wall where it's, you know, sunken quite a way, so.
So if somebody needs to put the big riprap in front of their seawall to protect it, we're going to allow that?
No, they have to file and have a hearing and get engineers and like everything else. It's not, there's no allow. You have hearings for these projects.
And that would take a structural engineer saying, gee, this wall's in danger of failing, and you need to put something at the base of this wall so it won't undermine or flip one way or the other. And plus, people aren't choosing to do it for the heck of it. They really need to have somebody that knows what they're doing recommend it.
It's funny, though, what you said.
It's not a cheap project. I mean, when you go into the expense of buying this, it's...
Well, we just approved, Stenbeck and Taylor were in here at our last meeting with this revamp and a structural engineer, and we conditioned that. I forget where it was.
Somewhere out there in Central.
Ours is on 258. They had a seawall, and they're going to do revetment.
But they're replacing something that was already there.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody in the audience falling asleep yet?
Make a motion to close?
Do I have a second?
Second. And maybe you and I will work on some conditions for this test pilot thing. Yep.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The one other thing too is Jen from the Board of Health said that, you know, you have to cover the septics. I mean, you have to put something there. When sand washes away, let's look at something. I know what your point is about precedent. Someone has the same project coming in, you know, we'll try the same thing.
Sharon, 12 Pondview Ave, extension, raise and rebuild. On December 16, 2015, at 7:30 p.m., the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Marvell Homes LLC, Paul Sharon, to raise and rebuild a single-family dwelling on property located at 12 Pondview Ave, Extension, Scituate. Of others who are interested parties are invited to attend.
This is the house
sorry.
My name is Paul Maravito from Ross Engineering Company. I'm representing the applicant for this project, Paul Sharon. Mr. Sharon will be purchasing the property shown on the plan. It's known as 12 Pondview Avenue Extension. There's an existing dwelling on the lot now with a full basement. He is proposing to raise that existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling shown in this plan in brown. The firm map that I submitted with the application shows that the entire site is in firm flood zone AE elevation 10 on a 2012 map. There are no wetlands within 100 feet of this site. This whole area of the neighborhood is all upland. The ground elevation varies from elevation 10 in the front to 12 around the house, and drops off to 11 here and 11 in this area here. It's a relatively flat lot. The proposal is to not have a basement under the new FEMA regulations. What's being done is that rather than have a basement, there'll be a crawl space, and as long as the elevation of the crawl space is above the existing, as long as it's above the elevation of the land around the house, it's not considered to be a lower level or a basement. So what's happening in these AE flood zones, you won't be seeing any more basements. The reason for that is to keep the insurance rates down.
There's still be breakaway panels, Paul?
Pardon?
Will they still put breakaway panels in that?
Yes, yes. We still have breakaway panels in here. What we'll do is set them at the same level as the bottom of the crawl space, because that's just above the existing grade, because we don't want to have water in the crawl space. What they'll do is pour a concrete slab. The crawl space will be approximately 3 feet high, so people can get in there and do any kind of maintenance that they may have to do on some of the air ducts or other pipes that are underneath the first floor of the house. The new maps have this in elevation 13, or 3 feet higher. So the proposal is to put the slab of the house at elevation 12.1, which is just above the proposed finished grade, which is very close to the existing elevation of the land. The crawl space would be approximately 3 feet. The top of the foundation will be 15.1, which means the first floor would be around 16.3, and it only has to be at 13. But because you have the crawl space, and the bottom of that is at ground level, then you're 3 feet above it to the wall, and then you get another foot and a half to the first floor.
Well, wait. So the new FEMA for this area is 13.
Right.
Okay, so that is the very bottom of the structure,
No.
all in.
13 is where the first floor has to be. Okay?
So the crawl space can be lower than that? How does that work?
As long as the crawl space is at or above the elevation of the ground around it, it is not considered a basement or a lower level.
So how does that, well, you have the crawl space here and the first floor here, what's in between?
Air. I mean, crawl space about, the crawl space would be about waist high. Okay?
And that's at what?
The,
rough numbers.
15.1. The first floor will be 16.4. The top of the foundation, if you look at number 8, the top of the foundation wall will be 15.1. And we're assuming the framing members...
So it's all elevation wall in between that. That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Well, the foundation is just up out of the ground.
So just so I understand, so
this is the
here's the bottom of the elevated floor of the house. And then...
The first floor of the house.
Yep, first floor of the house is right here. There's piles or whatever here.
This is
And then there's is the
this
concrete
foundation wall that's above you.
attached
Yep.
to this?
No,
And then
the
you'll
first
have these
floor is,
panels
sits on
that
joist.
allow for water to flow in and out.
I understand that. Yeah, we have the same thing in our house. I get that.
Yeah, this is how the majority of the houses are.
So the crawl space, is that
Then
directly
what
connected
happens?
to this
I get
floor?
his confusion. So this goes up 3
An
feet.
open area that would be below the...
What happens between 3 feet and 15 feet?
And, but does it touch the ground?
No.
On top of the ground, below it?
Yes.
Not 15 above grade.
Okay.
Yes.
So Bill, so
No,
here-
elevation
here's the elevated house.
Above sea level.
This crawl space touches the ground, so
I got
it
it.
just isn't below ground, it just touches on top of the
The
ground.
elevation of the house
The grade is
above sea
12.
level is the
Top of foundation's 15.
Got it.
So there's,
It's not 15 feet above the ground, it's 15 feet elevation.
From the ocean.
The elevation of the crawl space is 12.1, so it'll be above the ground around the house.
Sorry, a little
By
slow.
doing that, it's not considered a lower floor or a basement according to the FEMA flood insurance rates.
right.
Because water can
So-
pass under it?
So in order to have a crawl space, we're going to come up 3 feet to elevation 15.1 to the top of the concrete foundation wall. On top of the wall is where you have the framing members to get to the first floor.
Yep.
That'll bring up to elevation 16.4. And even though the flood elevation is AE 13, what that means is the first floor would have to be at least 3. I mean, it'd have to be at least 13 feet. In this case, it's 16.4. And the reason is because you don't want a lower level for insurance rate purposes. So the crawl space is what's going to be pumping the first floor of these homes in these flood zones about 2 to 3 feet above where they have to be.
Paul, I'm sorry, I just totally misunderstood at first. 15-foot elevation, I get that. I was thinking it was 15 feet high up.
Oh, no.
Totally misunderstood, I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly what I
From
was...
base elevation,
I
it's
got it,
15
I got it.
feet,
Going to be
yeah.
2-story parking under that.
That's what was confusing me, I just didn't get it, I'm sorry.
Put an excavator in it. All right.
Penny?
Where is our interest if there's no...
Because it's in the floodplain.
Oh,
They're in the flood.
Yeah, it was referred to as uplands, but it's still flood zone. Land subject to coastal storm flow, so that's a resource area, but there's no other resource areas, no...
what is the change in square footage here? Because do we have an outline of the former house here?
Yes.
We have, the orange is the new one,
Yeah,
right?
and the crosshatch area below it, this is the edge of the existing house, this is the back of it, you can see the front, it goes around. We show the existing deck, the crosshatching.
What's the difference in square footage, Paul?
Normally, because there's less than 25% increase in the impervious area, we aren't required to file a stormwater permit. If we were, we'd be filing it with a commission, but it's not required. And we have the calculations on the plan to show that.
Whole lot's only 7,000 square feet.
Yeah. Not very big.
So is,
There's only an increase of 300 and...
339.
and the increase, is it towards the water or away from the water? The increase in square footage?
This is,
The increase in the...
Increase of the square footage, it's a raise and rebuild, but is the footprint's a little bit larger?
Well, it
300 feet.
takes into account the proposed pavement, and the footprint is larger. All right, this, just so the board knows, this has been submitted to and approved by the zoning board as well,
yeah.
because the lot was a
Sorry.
non-conforming lot for area and lot frontage. There's more than a 20% increase in the gross floor area. The zoning board did approve this last month.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
Paul?
No questions.
This one else? Pat?
No, did you have any questions on the structural, any of the structural
Looks
stuff?
good.
Is on town sewer? Oh,
Yes, this is on town sewer.
Why is it showing a tank in a field?
Oh, we're showing this because the septic tanks in the field will be, they'll have to be...
Oh, because they just sewered that area.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Last
on the
year.
application, you listed the land subject to coastal storm flowage and the square footage and all that. We appreciate that.
Yes, so you're quite
Yes.
welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Good boy, you gotta go outside today.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to 12 Pondview Extension?
I make a motion to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Some
Very
use the
good.
velocity zone ones where they are
No.
15 feet out of the...
Clark at 258 Central Ave, storm prevented, replace seawall.
How long is it gonna be? Here we go.
To issue the orders. 2 doors down. I don't we just had.
Yep.
I'm sure they were listening very closely.
We have to have one.
Hey, Ben.
If I have to have a meeting, maybe we can. You don't have to have a meeting until
What do I know?
Oh, okay. We could write a letter.
This meeting, my phone is going to ring, ring, ring. Oh, that's good.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
Bang.
Oh, good night.
On December 16, 2015, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Pamela Clark to construct 46 linear feet of stone revetment to replace failed concrete seawall at 258 Central Ave, Scituate, about another important Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Packard. This is Carlos Penos, CLE Engineering. We're here representing Pam Clark and a proposed stone revetment at her property at 258 Central Ave in Hummerock. There was an existing poured concrete seawall that was in place that collapsed during storms last winter. And so this project intends to restore storm damage protection on the property. So I spoke with Mr. Gallivan earlier today, and there were 3 points of concern that I just wanted to address right off the bat. The first being the elevation of the proposed revetment. The work lies within FEMA Zone VE elevation 13. The top of our revetment is at 16.8, so it gives us about a 4-foot buffer between the crest elevation of a breaking wave and the 100-year storm event. And further, it's at grade with the adjacent concrete seawalls, existing seawalls on either side of the property. His second concern was the existing deck on the property. There's going to be no reconstruction of the deck. Basically, we're just going to have to remove it during construction to facilitate putting the rocks down. And then after the construction of the revetment is complete, they'll put the same porch right back. So no change in area, and so nothing new with the deck. And the third was construction access. And there's a pretty good point of access about 250 feet south of the property. And we can just ensure that the contractor works closely with all abutting property owners and the commission, just to make sure everybody is on board with the logistics during construction. And with that, I ask the board's opinion.
Can you pinpoint where that access is?
I don't have an aerial.
Okay.
It's 250 feet south.
Is it through somebody's property, or is it coming up the street?
I believe there's a paper street that's off of 250
I believe it's
Central.
probably 242 to 244. Because that would be actually that far south. I would be one of those abutters.
Oh, it's you. Well, we'll be working close with you.
Yeah, I haven't heard from you.
No, not yet. Once we actually get past this into construction.
Don't vote.
You can't vote.
Well, she's not adjacent to the project.
Right, there's a couple of regular ways they can get to the site. There's only 2 ways. So,
That's why I was asking the question.
yeah, so everybody kind of has the understanding that we'll let you and you let us.
The bottom of Fourth Cliff,
Yeah.
Right.
we're the midway point. It'll actually involve 2 homeowners. You would have to get permission from the Warrens as well.
So Carlos, where are you on the great rounded stone versus angled stone debate?
I'm more into the shingle stone. I believe that there. After watching it on Egypt Beach and perform, especially at Hemrock and other places. And we're trying that out as pilot programs in other locations. So we'll have a better idea. But just the way erosion and storm attacks Hemrock Beach at certain points, you can just see that, you know, everything's wiped out, but that berm, stone berm seems to hold really well.
So I'm working with actually Kevin Cafferty on that right now, different places along Scituate beaches.
Yeah, I live on Egypt Beach, and it got broached last year, but other than that, it holds up pretty good.
A lot of that stone, though, is placed naturally with the ocean, which is huge.
And it sticks it in at the right angle, it layers it correctly. It's a different, so if you can replicate that sort of process in
By
installation.
hand.
By hand.
There we go.
Yeah.
How large is the stone that you're going to use?
We have a 5-foot diameter top with 2 to 3 foot diameter stone down below. It's about it's like 8 to 10 ton on the top, and then, yeah.
I mean, Lisa, I'm sure you're well aware of it, but the idea is that instead of pouring a concrete wall there, they're going to do a stone.
Right, I know, I talked to Steve Barton. Yeah. I was just curious how it's being done, because we're always seeing different ways to do the revetment, so it's nice to hear somebody trying something different.
In this notice, you submitted information too that they came in back in 1992 and they were denied a wall, and they were told, come back and do something less than a wall. And this was, but then
times
there's been some remaining wall, and that's collapsed. This went this collapsed last year, last winter?
This past winter.
Yes, yes.
Spring, it was one of the late storms.
Yep.
And the collapse actually pulled it out.
Yeah, right.
Oh, because it went in, scoured behind it. Then
When it collapsed, it flooded the woman and her
The woman
husband
behind, yeah, I talked to her when I
across
did
the street. Her husband was on oxygen, and it filled up their basement with 6 feet of water.
So water will still come through this, right?
Well, water will top over, it'll splash over, but not to the degree.
But it won't go through?
No, it won't go
Oh.
Is it 10 tons?
No, it won't go through?
This is Jeremy's presentation.
I made a promise, I
Oh,
wouldn't say anything.
Carlos and I go back a long way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right, I understand.
I was on waterways for a long time, and so, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
It's 9 feet across? What am I seeing here?
There's a seawall on either side. They're just,
Yeah,
they're
and
just
it's going to be
connecting
level
it.
with that seawall, right?
Yes, that's
So, yeah, and that was our other concern, that it doesn't go above that, so, yeah.
I thought you could go 2 feet above existing. I thought that Pat said that.
Well, no, it's, you apply for what you want. We've allowed people to take concrete walls, drill them, epoxy them, and add 2 more
Add 2
feet.
feet, yeah.
That's not written anywhere in stone, it's a project.
9-foot stone.
Right, on an individual
It's
basis.
already well above the floodplain, and we're just trying to keep it in line with the existing
Right.
walls. Yeah.
No.
Penny, what are you asking?
What is the
top.
depth?
How,
Yeah, it's a 9-foot berm.
No kidding. Wow.
see?
That's a lot.
Yeah, but you got a picture of seawall.
Oh,
from the
yeah,
side
no, I
view.
get it,
It's-
yeah.
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 You can't.
No.
Yeah, it's- I mean,
He's telling me no, and I'm saying yeah.
Okay, you are right. Go on.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, good.
Are we all set on, Pat, did you have anything you wanted to?
Just that there's no DEP number, so pending DEP comments.
Yeah, we sent it right when we sent the NOI application, but they didn't receive the check until today. So in the green cards, I included basically a screenshot of the website, the tracking number that shows they received it today, but they can't issue a file number until they actually cash the check. And so...
They have to make sure you're good for it.
Yeah, naturally.
Okay. So with that condition, we can,
We
Rosemary.
spoke with them already, too.
Well, are they good for their check or not?
We spoke with the DEP said they were in favor of this wall.
Rosemary is.
Yeah. Rather than
Okay, I make a motion.
You don't, I'm out.
Nope.
Rosemary?
Can I ask just a question on point of information? Is this revetment being considered only because it's replacing a seawall?
Yeah.
Would it
Yes.
be considered under any other circumstances?
No, and we know it'd be tough to permit if it wasn't already existing previously.
Okay,
And so
that's
it's just to restore the existing storm damage protection.
Someday maybe they'll consider more of a Rosemary, but...
Not now.
Well-
Doesn't help me, I don't care.
Well,
Care for the other.
what it does, though, is if what you're saying is true and the water won't come through, that's going to be at least another area that's not going to be
Last
flooded by
man
the road,
standing.
and
Yep.
it'll save time that way.
Okay, go.
Anybody else?
I make a motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
With the DEP thing, yep.
Merry
Get your
Christmas.
DEP, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do it?
Oh, as soon as possible, the emergency is emergency. If you want to-
We're going to hope the weather holds, huh?
How long do you think it'll take to do?
Gibson, Alice's house,
I walk by it every day, so.
112 Hemlock Beach, rebuilt, destroyed by fire.
You may want to hurry, the water's come over 6 times already in the street.
December 16, 2015, and 8 p.m. at Town Hall, Scituate Conservation
Oh, that's the woman that got flooded, her husband died that year.
For the Massachusetts General Laws in Section 30707,
Thank you.
Alice's house?
Yes.
Alice's house, rebuild a dwelling destroyed by fire on property located at 112 Humrock Beach Road, Humrock, and butters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Great. Attorney Jeff DeLisi, I'm here with Jeff Hassett of Morse Engineering and Janet Gibson, who's the president of Alice's House. So a little background, Alice's House was one of the houses that burned in the fire in 2012. We've, Jeff?
Yes, we do.
Keep in line, Carol.
One of the houses that burned in the fire in 2012. And so we've made some improvements to the, and some slight changes to the footprint. Jeff will go over. We've obtained our special permit from the Board of Appeals for the construction, so there are no other permits that are necessary other than the order of conditions. So, wanna go over, Jeff?
Yep, gladly.
So this property is located on Humrock Beach, and Humrock is a barrier beach. The property is also within a velocity zone, and the seawall is located right here. 30 feet back from that is the break where it goes from a velocity zone elevation 19 to an AO 2-foot depth on the flood maps. On the preliminary maps, that goes from a velocity 19 down to 18, and it goes from a depth of 2 feet AO to an AE 16. What we're proposing to do is rebuild the existing, rebuild the structure on this property. It's going to be set back further from the seawall than the house that burned down. By doing that, we're keeping the house and the front porch within the AO zone or the AE outside of the velocity zone. It will have a deck on the front to the seawall that it will not be attached to the house, so it'll be freestanding. It's supported by wooden piles, and at the rear there is a garage that was about 20 by 20. It was damaged during the fire, so you can see it's burned pretty bad. That'll be rebuilt. We're moving it slightly and making it slightly smaller, making it 18 by 18. By moving it, we're just bringing it into compliance with zoning for an accessory structure. This property actually had a fairly new septic system installed, and we inspected that. We opened up the septic tank and the distribution box. It appears that it's still functioning fine. It wasn't crushed by the fire trucks. So we'll continue to use that system. And
Does that have to be okayed by the Board of Health again?
we'll write a passing Title V inspection for it.
Okay.
That should be adequate. Other than that, we're really maintaining the grades here. We're not doing any grading. There's no fill coming into the site, no material being moved.
Is there a net square foot increase?
Of the footprint?
Yeah.
I don't have that number.
But there is.
It's probably a small increase.
Okay.
The existing structure had a porch that came all the way up to this point here.
Mm-hmm.
In the rear of this house, it was right here.
The porch was a covered porch, and so under zoning, that's a structure, and that's, so that's being decreased in size, correct?
It is, and also the porch went all the way to the property line on this side. We're calling it.
So
What do you need the special permit?
Penny, did you cede to Bill?
we changed the...
Yeah.
What was that question?
He just typed
I didn't go in order.
I'm first.
Well, I'm gonna cede to Penny, so.
Smart boy, smart boy.
To answer your question, Bill, the zoning permit was necessary because we slightly changed the footprint of the building. It's a pre-existing non-conforming structure on a pre-existing non-conforming lot, and so we had to change just a few things. It was fairly minor in nature. We actually wanted the special permit because there's some funky zoning language and provision concerning rebuilding a house after it's been damaged by fire.
I know.
Steve was all over that on another property, and I just wanted to make certain that we went before the board as opposed to just relied on the building inspector, so.
Okay.
I think it's nice that it's moved back a little bit. My only question, you said that the deck is not going to be connected to the wall.
No, to the house.
The house.
To the house.
To either.
To either, okay. So my question's going to be relevant then. If it's not going to be connected to the wall, how close is it going to be? And is it going to be one of those that leaves, as several of them in that area do now in the winter?
So it'll be right up to the house, probably a half an inch.
I'm more concerned as to the wall, because that's a conduit for the water to hit the house if it's connected.
Yeah, same thing, it'll be freestanding, not connected to the wall, but it will go right to the wall.
And it will stay there all year?
That's the
Is there a
intent,
way for it to be moved, lifted, taken out in the winter for emergencies?
There's not. There's not.
But it's a lower elevation too, it looks like, so if the water comes over, it's gonna go under the house.
But not that it's in our purview, but we've been asked to allow access when people do need, when the town or somebody needs to get into seawall, right?
Right, I don't know if this is privately owned wall or what.
Yeah, this wall's a lot different, it's almost buried in the beach. This isn't like the big tall walls.
No.
No, this is where the sand goes from the north. It's level.
Yeah.
No, actually, right now, it's not level, it's about 6 feet down.
Well, it depends on what it was.
Exactly.
No, it isn't like a
Okay, I got you.
lighthouse.
Okay.
No.
The majority of this wall's buried, it's got a big foundation.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of institutional knowledge on that wall.
I live behind it.
I just walked on it about 5 hours ago.
Walk on it every day.
I tell you, folks from Hummerock can't say they're underrepresented on this board.
This will be the last of the 4 houses to go back. This is good. I'm glad.
Jeff, is the big trick to get all the living space out of the velocity zone? Like, I mean, you just need to get out of the V zone with that, and then if your decks are out there, it's not an issue. But have you looked at the new changes to the maps to make sure that it's all outside of velocity for the 2015, the new draft?
Yeah, we designed it to comply with both the current and the future map.
No.
I didn't know which Jeff you were talking to. I was about to just-
We don't ask new engineering questions, so.
You want to?
No questions.
I do have a question, just out of curiosity. So, how far is the rebuild house from where the existing footprint was in relation to the seawall?
It's further away.
How much?
Can you turn that towards Lisa a little bit, Jeff?
Yeah. I can put a scale to it. The new house will be the front porch will be 31 feet from the seawall, right here. The existing front porch was right here. We put a scale to that and give you a number.
All right, so, where was you're saying the old, this is the new porch?
Yes.
This 3-season porch? 2-season porch, deck?
No, open, no screen.
Okay.
But it has a roof, so a deck with a roof on it.
And the new one, and the old one was where? Here?
Right here.
Here. And the seawall is right here?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're not going to have removable stairs or anything from here?
There'll be a deck here. the deck from the porch. to
Will
the
there be
seawall.
any stairs here?
No, it'll be flush.
No,
to
it'd
the
be kind of a
seawall.
natural step. That's the only thing I know about.
Just from personal experience, if you have any kind of way to remove it to allow these waves to hit without ripping your deck up, life is easier.
So that's two of us that have mentioned that now.
Yeah.
Both from Hummerock, so
Our deck survived last
We
winter
know these
because the
things.
stairs were removable and 4 boards were removed away from the house. So when the water came up the seawall, underneath, it went up like a whale, and it didn't rip the deck
They're in a
off.
lot better shape than you, though. They have a much wider beach with a shallow beach gradient with a
Oh, yeah.
huge sandbar where they don't get nearly the wave energy you get where your house, where they break on your house.
There are also several houses along there that actually take just a small portion of the deck out, so that if the water does come over, it just goes right through.
Okay.
And
On the other-
that has, I
side.
could take you to 6 right now that are fairly close, a little further north, but not much, where they have had minimal damage, where others haven't.
And I can, to make that even better, the first year they were supposed to take it out, they didn't. Well, they got slammed with a storm. Remember that, Paul? The whole deck was all cobbled, caved in, and they take it out every year.
Feeling left
now.
out because you're not from Hummerock?
I know. No, but
Does anybody else from Hummerock want to say anything?
she's feeling left out because you didn't call on her yet.
She said she ceded to Bill, so.
I did. Moving on.
It's 9 o'clock.
I'm ready to close.
Believe me, Tony.
Is there anyone else that wants to pat?
Just had a couple things, not on the ocean side of the house, Hummerock people took care of that. On the inland side, the accessory dwelling and the driveway, and sometimes the possibility of lessening the amount of impervious. Is that the old driveway that's your house and the house closer to Webster? Is it one paved, is it covering the septic, or?
So it's paved coming from Webster towards this property.
Yeah.
There's no pavement on this property.
Right.
It's
Oh,
just
okay.
on the house
Just
with all
on
the
that one,
blocks.
the
They're the ones
24
with the
Webster.
pavement.
And it is over the septic.
So, and
Yes.
would you be parking there, or do you have to park on this
No,
lot?
we'll be parking on the lot, this lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on dirt, on sand, or?
Sand.
It's sand.
Gravel.
It's gravel.
Yeah.
Okay.
He gets stuck in sand.
It's definitely not paved.
In the accessory dwelling, we've had a couple lately that we've had people elevate. I mean,
This is an accessory dwelling.
the shed or whatever it
The
is.
the accessory building, yeah.
Accessory- Yes.
Did you see the plan on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually
Is it-
breakaway panels, and it's a garage on the bottom with
Storage.
storage above.
Right, so, okay, so the storage would be above and water, the breakaway
Would be
could
flowing.
flow under.
Right.
What is it now? Is it a standard old-fashioned kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not in
Ground
good
up.
shape.
It's a little
Yeah, I'm
melted.
gonna take care of the house next door, where that was gonna be a hearing that's on tonight.
Well, we don't want to know anything about that.
It could impact your property, so.
You're not going to build any walls around your property?
No walls.
Walls.
The Great Walls of China are not allowed.
We didn't think we needed to get your approval for walls.
Oh, boy.
We just want to share our opinion.
So close to closing, right after that. Second.
We're ready.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can we stop for just 2 minutes?
You better hurry.
Yeah.
Stretch my legs.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be a long night.
No, Mr.
Well, when I
Smith,
walked
let's
in
see.
and the whole room was full, I was like, yay. It's so funny, because I was thinking about talking to you about the email that you sent, and I was like, oh, I gotta talk to Lisa, and there it is.
What did you send me?
It's an important part of town.
Obviously.
Pay a lot of money to this town.
Put it back to that camera. My butt. No way.
$8:15.
I have no clue.
Every other weekend here, so. Having a long meeting. We used to have 4 or 5 hearings tonight, would be done by 8:30.
He never used that one.
What thing?
GPS.
Oh, you know, they go to do a new project in the air. Then last year was such a bad storm year that now people start. Yeah, they're just trying to repair things. Set of rules.
Loves to fish. What about what's that big, what's that big place that, up by Foxborough? Yeah, Bass Pro Shops. Bass Pro Shops.
Bass like the fish.
She doesn't want to miss it. She says,
Bass.
Here's
my fish.
Give me back a 10, I'll give you money.
The filing came in, we're looking at it, it'll be on the next meeting.
this was absolutely great. This wasn't.
No, that was.
Last time I had to pay you, I was booked for a month.
Last time I paid you, I think I overpaid. I sent you money and kept, it's like, oh, that was too much. I'm like, that's the bass, in case you forget.
You too, I think.
Foxborough. No, you're gonna have to do it online. Just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's all one filing.
You should see it. It's, the place is insane.
What's
They
the
have,
one in Maine?
Same engineer.
oh, that's LB.
Same.
No, not Albert, it's,
Oh, the other one, Cal.
it's the highfalutin, women go
Just
there and
a
get,
different
like,
What
animal
are
bass.
these people doing here?
Not Calaberry, not CAL.
No, it's like a girlfriend of mine who's like very fashion conscious.
I know, I
looked
looked
at
at
her
a
stuff and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And he was like, outside stuff.
Well, the other guy that's called and open. Now they're working together to try to get it fixed, so I haven't even read it yet.
No, yeah.
talking about that, but this is up here, just got.
Only because we hadn't received the filing
So if I
yet.
had a bottle of.
So we just got the filing 2 days, I was just.
Did you see that thing
was about
the
something
other day?
else.
about
Do
it's
you
broken?
have
Just
The
something
single
to take?
leading, single leading cause of liver failure. The single leading
Well,
cause.
I'm opposed then.
Frank, do you have something to take, or do you want something?
Sure, yeah.
I got stuff at home. I just will get.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have a lead. I know I do.
I'm good. Thank you.
You sure?
A
I
leave
have it
is-
in my
A leave is
pocketbook.
better for you, by the way.
I'm good.
That, on camera, that's good.
Are you still here?
What are you offering, Steve?
What do you?
There we go.
Takes care of everything.
Yeah. A good,
I concur.
a good soothing herbal remedy.
Perk you up some good coffee.
Come on, let's get going. I want to go home one time.
Waiting for, this one.
I don't know. Lisa and Richard.
Oh.
You don't wait for me, you just go ahead.
Quiet.
What other miscellaneous things are we gonna have to discuss after?
Miscellaneous. I mean, we have 2 things that require votes.
What?
Quiet. Bob.
Order of conditions for Justice-in, 220 Central. Anybody have a chance to look at those? That was the last one, the riprap wall.
Yeah,
Yep.
And Carol sent those around.
yes.
Okay.
And you guys can vote on that if you want.
I make a motion to accept the orders as written for 220 Central
Central
Ave.
Ave. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Richard, anything on Coastal Advisory Commission? Is that?
We had a meeting last night, still really pretty organizational. Frank, if I missed something, but basically, we're trying to get educated as to the coastal studies that are being done in many areas, including this one, to see for various different ways to formulate recommendations that would go to the town Board of Selectmen eventually. And it could be a good half to 3/4 of a year before those recommendations will be ready, but we've got kind of assignments for the next month to come up with several different areas that are doing studies, Maritimes, Denmark, some in this country as well, to see how they match up.
You know, FEMA just had drones go down the coast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the problems is that the forecast for sea level rise are anywhere from 8 inches to 6 feet.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do we make provisions for? So that was part of the discussion, but it's, good thing is to look outside the box.
They had the guy from Netherlands, they had his report, you guys get a copy of
Yes, in
that?
fact, you sent it to, you forwarded it to us, and then they asked that I forward it out to the members of that board, which I did this
good,
morning,
good.
so.
Get Mr. Smith out of here.
Okay.
So I'm Don Smith from 151 Border Street. Sorry to extend the headaches on our little project, but when I got the orders and conditions, there were a couple issues on it that I thought if they went to record, there'd just be more headaches in the future. Tried to connect with Pat on Friday. Didn't connect, so I spent the weekend reading regulations and writing letters. So I don't know if you all got copies of it, but there were 3 basic issues. One was just an address correction, which is obviously easy. The other was it called for no irrigation systems. There's an irrigation system already there that's been there for years.
Yeah, so that's a non-issue.
Okay.
Those we can remove.
All right, and then the third one was there were 2 paragraphs about recording a restricted covenant, which I looked into and I tried to find an example online. The only sample I found was from the Scituate Planning Board, so I read their covenant, and it flagged the issue of when you get a recorded covenant, they tell you to look for lender approval. And I started thinking about that, and I think that's probably not a great idea. And then talked to Adam about the way it's written, and he said, well, actually, that can cause more confusion down the road, too, because it doesn't actually say what the laws say. So, now you've got 2 different things on record. Which do you follow?
Pat, can you maybe a little bit of a discussion? I think we're pretty good on.
Yeah, I think one of them was an old boilerplate thing that was useful for some kind of restriction on a land. But if you have riverfront property, there may be another way to do this through the order of conditions that goes with the title. And, in this case, the land gets split, but the amount of riverfront has been used up. But we don't need to put any kind of conservation restriction on it to restrict anymore because it's pretty much used up. And so I think we could put that in a condition. I know that in the past.
So can we remove the piece?
Yeah.
So we'd strike all 3 of these pieces of contention?
Yeah.
Well, we correct the address.
Yeah, correct them, yeah.
That one,
Strike the address.
2 we could strike, and third one we could reword, I think, yeah. And
Okay.
I think this has caused trouble along the way using boilerplate ones, and I think we need to be more careful when we do.
You want Carol to write individual ones for each one?
She just left.
This one would have fit if this had been a large lot and they hadn't used up all the riverfront, and we wanted to make sure it was, we were notified when it was split or when there was any extra riverfront area used. So, but in this case, it's after the fact, and we can straighten it out.
All right. So, what's your recommendation for these?
It qualifies as a almost like a clerical change. It doesn't require any kind of posting of a meeting or any kind of a thing like that. I mean, if you say, word it in a way that...
Can we issue the orders tonight with those things changed, or do we have to do something?
Yeah, I could give you wording, when we strike that, irrigation's already in place, we don't need that, and then riverfront area in the outer riparian has been used up, inner is restricted anyway. No further development unless you wanted to remove some impervious, take down a garage, then you might be able to do some, but it would, no additional riverfront alteration would be allowed.
So the one caveat on that is, so I was trying to think through over the weekend, when the Riverfront Act, if I want a path to carry my kayak down the river.
We could work with you on that, paths are different.
Pat's already called out that, you can do the path, that's fine. So I do all the plantings and...
Call us, though. Call us before you do anything.
Right.
All right.
So, so the regulations go through great detail about, the path is okay, or if I want to do a dock in the future, that's okay.
And dock is okay, you have to file, and dock you're entitled to.
So I'm just concerned that you don't write something that says you can't do anything when we all agree, there's things you can do.
Yeah.
And it's called for in detail in the regulations.
Right, and neither of those are really, there's no real language in the Riverfront Act about a dock. That's a whole separate,
Okay, I think we're all on the same page. In fact, I mean, the reason we bought the lot is we love the fact they're so natural. You know,
Yeah.
most of the lots in the river
Right.
are no trees and lawn. We didn't want that, so we're...
In the dock that's out there, does that go with the other property
That's on the neighbor
now?
property, yeah.
Because it used to be
It used to be one big property.
Okay. Yeah.
So these were too easy. What else you got?
Caveat for the evening, but, so are we able to do those orders?
Yeah, I mean, do you have,
I don't have a new one to be signed.
oh, we have a signature page? Well, if you have a signature page, you just put that language in there.
But actually, the signature page on the old one doesn't change.
Isn't there a date on it or not? Is there a date
There's
on
a
it?
December 3rd, yeah. There's December 3rd.
But, I don't know. I mean, it's not a,
If it's,
just call it a revision
Yeah,
type
if it-
of thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, because if we don't issue them till tonight, we're way over the 21 day.
Right.
So if we leave that date, we're okay.
Right, now, like you're saying, these are,
It's a clerical
they're not
revision.
material
Yeah.
changes. They're,
All right,
all right,
Let's make it
why
okay.
don't we do
so
that?
we can sign that this evening, and you can make those
So
changes.
you're gonna sign a new one then, and I'm gonna change the date?
Or just leave the old one.
I'm gonna leave the old one.
Leave the old one.
Okay?
But you can't pick up, I mean, I gotta,
Yeah.
You won't have it.
No, yeah,
You
just,
won't have it tonight.
it exists, but you won't have it.
right. Yeah, that's not right. Okay, hit it.
Okay.
No, there's no motion.
Nothing, we're all
Oh, no, we're
set
done.
this
Okay,
evening.
great. Okay, thanks so much. Sorry for the torture.
Everybody's happy.
Good luck.
We're the ones that...
Yeah, sorry it was an extra layer of stuff you had to deal with, too.
Have a good night.
Take this weekend off. Yeah.
We'll all be down in the spring.
No, we won't. We have 11 Eisenhower here, too. Yeah.
All right,
Oh, God.
Just when you thought it was safe.
so 11 Eisenhower Lane. Did anybody stop back out there?
Yep.
Yeah, and Pat and I exchanged, we had a discussion on it.
Right, yeah, I asked people to reply just to me, not a group reply. And everybody got the photos of the work
I
that's been
replied to
done.
you, yeah.
Was there a consensus in these individual replies?
There probably needs to be a little discussion.
Okay.
So, who wants to, Penny, you want to?
No, I'm very clear on how I stand, and I still stand in the same spot. I'm not going to send the wrong message. You did something wrong, you needed to clean it up completely. So that's my feeling.
Bill?
I think that what is done, and that it would be in the best interest of the town, the people involved. No, it'd be in best interest of the people that are involved to make sure what improvements are done, are completed, and we move on and get these people their CSC so they can move in. I think in the overall, yes, were things done wrong, but in the overall scope of things, I think it would be doing these people an injustice to hold them up.
Okay.
I basically said the same thing in a message to Pat, that I think they've done a lot of work very quickly in an effort to remedy as much as they can, and I think it would be a negative thing to hold it up longer.
I concur.
Lisa?
I agree with Penny.
Can I just make a comment too, Frank? On the area that was, where the disturbance took place, it wasn't a lawn, no trees were taken down. It was an area that was a gravel, became paved, and there was another area where it was a lawn, became a couple of deck posts. If it were filling of wetland, if it were cutting down trees, I'd be in agreement with Penny and Lisa. I think in this case, it's a minimal amount of disturbance, and a lot of it was undone by taking up half the pavement and planting plants. So I think it's a compromise that covered the past alteration as well as you can. But I understand what both of you are saying. We have regulations and we're trying to enforce them, and I think they have met us by doing this.
My only problem with what you're saying is it's, okay, file, get a set of orders, go do what I want, and then we'll play let's make a deal. I'm not willing to play let's make a deal.
Right.
They were given orders, they brought in plans for very specific things. They overstepped by a mile. The deck's way too big, they put in an asphalt driveway. I'm sorry. To me, I am sending a message. Get your orders, do what you want. If they catch you, then we'll make a deal with them. I'm not willing to make deals.
And if it is premeditated, I agree with you.
I can't say if it is or isn't. I'm just saying you did get a set of orders. There was no mistake on the deck. How much bigger is it? A lot bigger. It was in black and white on the plan. That's all I'm saying. I cannot judge. I just know we have got to stop. It's not, let's make a deal here. That's my opinion. And that's, the rest of the board, you do what you feel, but I feel very, very strongly about this. We make too many deals, I'm sorry.
Well, I guess I don't disagree, Penny, with you and Lisa, with the frustration of going through these hearings and then seeing some of these happen. We have 2 projects that I want to bring up when we're done with this, that we just had the hearings and already they're in violation, which is really frustrating. The hard part is when you have something that drags out over a long period of time, is sometimes it's multiple owners. People forget, in this case, it is the same owner. And I'm not quite sure what brings people to that. I'm not a suspicious person. I don't think that people do all these things necessarily by in a blatant disregard, but there is a set of orders that showed what they were supposed to build and what they weren't supposed to build. And that's the case of the deck. Fortunately, it's not a foundation and it's not on the ground, and the impact is slight. It's inside the fenced-in area. I mean, that lot today wouldn't even have a house on it, but it was constructed that way, and I don't see the people step forward. They removed a piece of the asphalt. There's now pervious area, and then there's a number of plantings. So they made an effort to bring that into compliance to some degree. And I guess I don't want to see them penalized any more than what they've had to do with that at this stage.
I just know that there's other ones, and Pat has very clearly stated they've caused their own hardship. Well, I feel these people, they caused their own hardship by going outside the boundaries. All of a sudden, we're gonna sell, we gotta get that CSC. Shucks, they call me. I don't know. I just am tired.
No, you're completely right, Penny.
And, well, I personally can't play the game. You don't need my vote to go ahead with this.
So in the future, is it possible, because we run into this all the time, the only time it seems like people come for a COC is when they want to sell the property. Is there a way from the time that, we give them a date for the work to be completed, that there is a date that we go and inspect for a certificate of compliance before we have all these years go by? Is there a way of somehow changing our rules?
Right, but the only problem with that, if you want to do it, you're taking on their responsibility. It's like your son doesn't pay his mortgage payment, and you're like, well, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again? That's why it's recorded on the deed, so that the homeowner is responsible. They don't care about it, and then when they need to sell a house, they try to make it your problem.
Okay, so then why, that's a very good point, and I agree with you, they're responsible, but we're not holding them responsible.
In reality, you shouldn't even have a hearing. You should, when they come in and say to Pat, and say, how do we get signed off? Comply with your plan and get an engineer to say you've complied with the plan. What's your question?
Right.
You know,
Because whereas are treating everybody the same, if we hold some people accountable and we don't hold others accountable.
Well, we held them accountable. Every situation is different, though. I mean, we just had the village at South River, and we put them through a couple of $1,000 engineering review to make sure that we were satisfied that he captured all the stormwater. Someone else comes along, we'll put them through the same kind of review. This is a different scale. But there should be some kind of mitigation.
Asphalt driveway is a big scale to me.
Well, he took it up. I mean,
He didn't take it all up.
Right.
Let's just say that these people did get their certificate of compliance 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever they got the orders, and then they did the work. And then they did the work that they've done now, you wouldn't even know it.
Right.
Yeah, but they weren't sharp. They just didn't come.
You understand that?
I do understand that, but that
So if this was the main house and they violated their permit with their building permit, they would have to comply?
There's a lot of changes that are made to houses.
Right.
Well, it depends if the home inspector picks up, first to your point about them getting a certificate of compliance, it would be nice if people got it on a timely manner, right? And then it would be really good if they lived within what was conditioned back then. But if let's just say that these folks got this certificate 10 years ago, 8 years ago, right after they completed the first part of that project. And then they made these other changes over the last 10 years. They would have passed papers on that house and no one would have known any better. The only reason that we're dealing with this now is because they failed to do that. If a person was savvy, as soon as they got that project in compliance, they'd get the certificate. Do you follow me?
Right. But the problem isn't really the driveway. The problem is lack of a certificate of compliance. And they failed to get it.
No, I think the problem is the piece that they did beyond what they were supposed to do when it was conditioned. Now, it's not to say that they couldn't have come in and asked for a bigger deck. Maybe they would have got it, maybe they wouldn't have. Or could they have paved a piece of the driveway for various reasons? Probably we wouldn't have allowed them the area that was paved, but maybe we would have considered part of it. It's hard to say. And believe me, I'm looking at a few that we just did, and my frustration is that we just barely conditioned them and they're already in violation. This is something that accumulated over time, and in an effort to make it work, we'll come back to this piece. I just don't see the point in penalizing them more than what is necessary.
Well, plus, I think the word does get out, too, that there'll be some repercussions if you haven't lived by your order. Like anybody watching a hearing or attending is going to say, oh, this commission is going to make me do something in the end. It's not going to be like, oh, yeah, we'll sign off on this certificate and off you go.
In my personal opinion, the way I weigh it is what is the level of damage to the areas that we are supposed to be protecting here? And in this case, is it damaged? Yes. Have we increased impervious surface? Yes. But in the level of other things that we deal with, I would respond, kind of proportionally. And I think that this, my idea from my personal point of view, it is a proportional response.
Well, let's vote.
Yeah.
So you want me to make the motion? Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing. We do not allow impervious driveways in the buffer zone. That's all I'm going to say.
So what are we going for, a CC?
We make a motion to accept a certificate of compliance with the alterations that were made to 11 Eisenhower?
11 eyes, with the restoration plan.
With the restoration plan, plantings, and the removal of that impervious area.
What he just said, I just said.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Move on, please.
Thank you. Your point is well taken, if that's any consolation.
Thank you.
Geez, the eyes are awful. Okay.
Do you want to take your agenda ones? That they're more recent. Some of these are ongoing and...
Curtis, Stockbridge.
Do we have anybody else waiting?
Is there anybody else?
Some guy fell asleep in the back.
Yeah, I
They're both.
Mr. Chairman, did he get his COC?
Yes, yes.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your efforts to get that. I met Mr. Duffy out there, and he was digging, and so to his due, I think it's a little bit better. And,
Can I just say something? Penny, I know it's probably going to bother you for the rest of your life. This deck that got enlarged, it got enlarged over 10 or 15 years. When he put the deck in first, it was in compliance. And then he put a grill on it and got bigger, and then he had grandchildren and got bigger. So it wasn't just something that he just went out and violated on purpose. And the driveway came about because when the came to put a driveway in, because everybody except for one person on that street has an asphalt driveway. He got a contractor that was susceptible to giving him more than anybody could afford. So that's what he got. He thought it was a good deal, and he wasn't concerned about breaking any rules. Maybe his head got a little bit ahead of himself, but I know Rich Coleman, and he certainly didn't want to violate any rules whatsoever.
thank you. The only thing that's really going to work on this is time, though.
Yeah, I know. He was saying.
Yeah, I'm the one that's a sippy setter.
Compliance at the very beginning.
Gonna kill me.
I went through a stop sign.
Well, I'm just going to remind
Thank
you.
you.
Don't give me a when you
You
let
should.
these guys get away with this.
You should. I agree with you. I do. I didn't.
So,
This kid suffered.
I went by...
That's his problem.
I went by the old Open Bucket Road site. Did you get a chance to ride by that?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a case where the people started the project without even a
Rickety silt
order,
fence.
right?
Right.
And then we met them, we worked with them, we told them what they could do. I went out there the other day, there's a kind of a token piece of silt fence laying on the ground and nothing else.
One day, they needed to get around the back with another truck, so they asked if they could hold off on doing it. But now the project's starting, so they have to,
So they need to get that, and they need to do it in a hurry, or we can put a stop order. They started that project without a set of orders. And we met them more than 3/4 of the way. And now there's not even any erosion control or minimal, so.
Right. Yeah, I went by there and there was nobody there, but I'll get out there tomorrow or the next day.
Then on Curtis, my understanding is that they started this without a pre-construction. And is they're cutting in the wrong area?
The driveway is.
It's out of our jurisdiction where the fruit trees were that we thought were gonna stay, but that's out of our jurisdiction.
But it's in our jurisdiction in terms of erosion control.
It is, but it's not near the wetland, but out back, everything is cleared, and I seem to remember there being more of a buffer to the wetland.
Right.
So, they put the erosion control down, but they need a visit too.
And on any of these, you know what, if you need to, just tell them to stop work until it's squared away.
Well, yeah, plus if you're not in compliance, it's an enforcement order you
Right.
can issue too, so, yeah.
You know, I know the weather's good and everybody wants to get moving, but... And then Stockbridge Road is a site that was a piece of town property, and how did that even evolve, Steve? Who is developing that?
The town still owns the piece of property.
So we had a plan showing erosion control, a lot of it's knocked down, it's in bad shape, and that needs to be fixed.
One house is up and one is empty. One lot's empty and one house is built.
There's a duplex left to go up, I think. All of them are going to be affordable units.
Right. But the erosion control there, and this is something that's under the auspice of the town.
Housing authority, I believe.
Yeah.
This is, the wetland kind of goes between the two houses or out by the street?
If you face it, the wetland's to the right, and towards the street.
It's a kettle home.
Yeah.
And the driveway's to the left, and the one house is on the left. Okay.
It's a common driveway, right?
Yeah.
I hope so. I thought there was too much clearing, but maybe that was just my...
That'll be on the plan too.
Yeah.
As long as people put tree lines.
I went out there
But
and walked
the
around.
siltsock's banged into the thing, it's covered with dirt in some places, it's just been neglected. But- And then, where we went out to Ingrid Lane, I think that you gotta, do they have a building permit for that house?
There's one already built that went through the permit.
But
The
is
second one was before me and I held off. I haven't signed it.
For a building permit?
Right.
So why isn't there an erosion control plan with that building permit?
Because on the plan that we saw, they're more than 100 feet away, but since then, there's been filled.
It's gotta be over 15,000 feet of disturbance. So
right.
they need erosion control.
They probably need a stormwater permit.
And a stormwater permit. Right.
I sent emails to a bunch of people in this building today. And it turns out that the new buyer hasn't made the final purchase yet, so that's good. So we have a statement to the old owner to submit some information to us.
On that site, when they were using that as a staging area, and buildings to close some stuff from that, but...
I'm not technically an abutter, just for the record.
All right.
We're not voting anyway.
We were out there on several occasions, and I clearly remember asking their engineer to give us a plan showing us what they had, where they had placed material in relation to the buffer zones and all that. Now you go out there, the erosion control's gone, it's rotted into the ground. The flagging's just about disappeared. I know it's an old site, but before you sign off on that building permit...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know about a stormwater piece, I want the erosion control stuff back, and we want to see what happened there.
The amount of fill is a lot.
Astronomical.
It's
It's unbelievable.
A ton. I can't calculate cubic yards that well, but there's lots of them.
Yeah. So, you know, they just got a lot of cleanup to do in that place.
I spoke to the person who's gonna be building the new house and went through this with him. I said, we got issues with the old owner.
And you know, it's really irrelevant to me that that was a staging area for the town. That the people that own the property were compensated or whatever to use that property as a staging area.
Right.
And so that's their problem. They want to go back and take it up with the contractor or whatever they have, but that's not our problem.
Right.
But that place needs to get straightened out before.
And along the way...
Even going up the road, that access road.
Right.
Is still sort of under, and those erosion controls are
Right, they're gone, silt fence is left. They, this kind of went through planning board, kind of went through zoning board of appeals and building, and along the way, there could have been spots where it was stopped, I think, but that's where we are now. So we have stuff we can do regardless of what they do, you know?
Okay. And then, just while I'm sputtering, we had a request from the Water Resources Committee to endorse their recommendations for changes in private wells. And it's a pretty involved report. And the piece that I picked up on it was my concern that private wells are to be used for irrigation the same way people water their lawn using town water, meaning basically they can do it one day a week. And I had a long discussion with John Clarkson today with the Water Resources Committee, and I told him that I would discuss this with our members. I think it's important for you guys to take a look at this report. Maybe we can resend it or something if somebody doesn't have it. I'm going to spend some time and talk with Jim DeBarros with the Water Department, and I'm going to talk with Jen Keefe because it's under their purview. It goes through the Board of Health. I just have some real concerns of whether it's achieving what we want it to achieve in terms of conserving water, and whether it would be better to have people be able to use. I just don't see citizens of Scituate spending the money to drive a private well if they can't use it.
No, you're effectively saying you can't use a well. That's what you're basically saying.
And they're using good quality water to irrigate. To John's point, it's all being drawn from the same aquifer, so it's
which
like
is what I was going to just say, right?
But I know, I'd really like to see that. I'd like to see that in a map. I mean, I'm not an expert in that, and I hate to see a committee like the Water Resources that's worked hard. But just like we're going back to revisit some of the pieces with the stormwater, apparently these are recommendations. This is not an actual piece, but somehow those things get from a recommendation to a rule or a law. And I just think they'd like to do it as soon as possible. I'm going to plan on attending their meeting in January, and I'll get that information out. I mean, I think it's important that the Conservation Commission, Water Resources, all those things be working together.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to be contradictory to what they're doing. It's just one piece of their recommendations that I'm not convinced is in the best interest.
I thought there could be a middle ground where you're all in the same aquifer, so we don't want unlimited well use. But because you drilled a well, maybe you get a bonus day or 2 bonus days, maybe, something that allows you to do it, encourages it, but doesn't penalize you too much and doesn't drain the aquifer.
Oh, maybe that's a possibility.
And it still wouldn't be sprinklers, it'd still be...
And this is like a Band-Aid, though. Is there any talk, basically what they're talking about is a water shortage. What's the plan to solve the problem?
But what was interesting in having this conversation with John is that the town has a cap on what we can draw for water.
Right.
So even if we drive more wells or increase our reservoir, we're only supposed to draw so much water.
Yeah.
And
then we start paying at a different rate for it.
As the town grows, where is the additional water going to come from?
Right, exactly.
And
That's the problem.
Can we add to that? And I just don't understand enough of it, and I'd like to find out some more.
Right.
And so, I'd be happy to endorse all the pieces that they have, except for that one on that well restriction. I mean, I think they did a phenomenal job in reviewing like the public buildings and encouraging more conservation. They're talking about, people want to water, they can build cisterns and put their roof runoff into cisterns. I mean, there's a whole number of things that they're proposing. It's just that one sticking point for me. But they're asking the whole commission, and I don't know if everybody feels the same way or you want to endorse it. I mean, you ought to take a look at it.
Do we have it?
We had I don't know if we had an electronic copy, we had a paper one we brought to a couple of meetings. Did we get
thought I sent it to everybody.
Yeah.
Electronically? All right, I'll look at it.
Yeah, we did,
Okay.
because we didn't have one at first, and then you got it and sent it out.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't find it, check with Carol and see. All right?
Yeah, real 30 seconds. We had the Beach Commission meeting last night. They've got some real interesting ideas. I talked to Pat today. We're going to go look at some of the beaches,
Where was the beach meeting?
Beach Commission meeting was in Rec Department.
Remember that guy sat on our meeting because he couldn't find it?
Oh.
There was a guy that came into the...
Yeah, last night?
Came into the school last night, so he was looking for the beach meeting. And he couldn't find that, so he watched out.
We were in the rec committee.
We had one person in the audience.
Coastal Beach was...
So they have some very interesting ideas, and this committee is going to have a lot of teeth. It's going to be a very interesting committee. And they required a Concom member to be on it. So I will keep you guys abreast.
They don't want concrete benches on the beach, do they?
No.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
Anymore.
You should see
Steve?
the charter.
Are you going to condition it 50 Walker Bucket Road?
What?
Do we have a set of conditions?
See, he made that up.
Set of orders?
No, we already did the orders.
Steve's asking if we're going to vote his orders.
We don't even have your orders.
Well, we talked about it last time because we didn't have issues with the whole NOI piece of it. It was the stormwater stuff, so Carol got them pretty much ready.
I haven't seen it.
Which one's this? Old Oaken Bucket.
This is the lot across from the old house.
Yeah.
To cut the trees or not to cut the trees? That
I
is the
thought we
question.
just,
And now he wants his order of conditions.
Yeah.
that was 10 minutes ago, wow.
Pushy.
Do you want to look at it?
Oh, God.
Come on, Penny.
You really have.
All right, what else we got, Pat?
I know.
Some of these violation ones, the letters are out, we're waiting to hear from people, or there's enforcement orders, and there's some of the people that Penny agrees that we should be going after, and we will.
Who? Everyone. Everyone that's bad. Play by the rules or go home.
Some of them are the same. 174 Branches, Curtis, Ingrid's on there. 24 Webster is the one with the walls. I met with him, but I haven't gotten back to him since. Lot 2, Peggotty Beach. Greg Morse asked for time to go out and try to run a line through the drain, and we gave them another month, I think, to do that.
Yeah, I think we set it for the 13th.
It's the 13th or the 20th?
Who's going to do that?
27th.
Greg was going to go out there, but if it
We need a
can't, if
rotor
he
rooter.
can't find it, yeah, I think it's going to dead end in there, but I think the town
It's all
will-
backed up.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it goes all the way.
Right.
Let's
And
go dig it up.
That's what, except for the paving is going to end soon, so Kevin's a little nervous about that. Tilden Road is fine. We haven't heard back, we can't find the guy.
You know what? I hate to ask you this, because I know that somebody told me that there was dump trucks rolling in and out of Mr. Kamen's property again.
Dump trucks? Maybe he's taking stuff out.
No.
Shocker. When?
Oh, he was on tonight's agenda to have he was going to have it surveyed.
Why does he need dump trucks to serve it?
The guy that does the work for Jen Keefe is, I'm drawing a blank, the second guy.
Ralph Cole.
Ralph Cole. Ralph Cole had an original plan, so we could start with that and have a survey, but we just couldn't line up a survey, and Mr. Kamen didn't line one up. But we told him the 13th he's on, and we're gonna have it surveyed by then.
Well,
Snow.
What do you think
I
the
hope
dump
he's not-
trucks are doing? Should I go down tomorrow?
Take a peek.
I hope
Hey.
it's taken out
I think I
extra
will too.
batteries.
Is there anything unusual about these orders of
No.
conditions? They're all,
No, they're all generic.
yeah.
They're generic.
And we had agreed on the boundaries of work and, yeah, right?
Can we
Yeah, we
start?
just have to identify the plan that's the disturbed plan. Plus, we'll put in a couple of things about, please reference the letter from Esposito and the letter from
DPW.
DPW.
It's irrelevant, because we're not doing the stormwater anymore like that. On the basin?
Well,
We
on the
we can't
street-
Yeah, but
take, can we take information after it's closed?
Yeah. Hush up, Stephen, you can't talk.
So,
Right.
but
Do we get it,
Right,
isn't
right.
there,
Right, the ones that are not relevant, we won't. Yeah, right.
if we issue the orders like the same night like that, isn't there some sort of tripling of the fees or some?
Better alternatives analysis next time. Anything in the world, right? That was
Out
it.
of a stone.
Can't do it, we lose all the money, we do it.
okay, so we gonna vote this?
Yeah.
Okay, hit it.
I make a motion to accept the orders of condition for 50 Old Oaken Bucket Road
With the,
as written with the
additional requirements that Pat had
additional
discussed.
requirements that Pat
Second.
has spoken of.
Aye. Motion to, what?
Yes.
Yes. Motion to adjourn. Yes.
Anything else?
Oh, wait a minute.
19 Kenilworth?
1 second, don't leave yet.
We do 19
You
Kenilworth?
can close though. You
did
can
already.
close if you want, just don't
We
leave.
did 220.
We did close. You're,
So we can close.
you're close.
It wasn't on the agenda.
I know it's...
My Christmas gifts, yeah.
I make a motion.
That shouldn't take long.
That we...
Keys to our new
Wait a
cars.
minute. We gotta accept the orders for Kenilworth. 19.
Is there a
19
second?
kennel. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Paul seconded.
October 21st?
I don't have any on there. Oh, yeah, I read those.
Yeah, they were good.
Really good minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 21st as written.
I have a second?
Everybody, happy holidays.
We're still on TV.
Okay, what else? What else?
All right, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I should have been